but we know one thing, we're all Kanaka, we all want to be free, we're all very unhappy with the situations we're in. We all suffer from some form of PTSD, um, and we are the only ones that can make that better. No one is going to come and fix it for us. We have to fix it ourselves. And I think it sounds like all of us have been through enough that we know that. And we bring different ideas, we bring different concepts, and that's okay. It's okay. We just need that common understanding that we are the ones that have to do it. And they're going to agree that we're going to do it. And we will agree to accept each other as we are. That's who we are as a people. With all the things that have happened, many of the things that made us special have gotten lost. When you burn your hand, you're very reluctant to put your hand back there again because you know you're going to get burned. So every time we had something bad happen to us, we withdrew and said, not going there again because this happened. We have to find a place to understand that we are the ones that will create the safe haven for us to move forward. And we can't, this is not about me. This is about we. It is about us. We were people that practiced unconditional love. And we weren't afraid to share that and to look out for each other. Sometimes it became a fault because we forgot about ourselves. But if we understand, with peace coming over, the karma man, we always looking for karma. Coming over will intentionally buy food that he's not going to eat because he's going to see somebody that's hungry and he's going to give it to them. And I swear to God, and if Hannah and Jocelyn will swear to God, that every time Kailoa can do that, our entire day changes. It just gets better. Because you just would share your aloha, you share your love. You recognize that there is this person that co-created who is not as fortunate as we are in the moment and keep that. That's a big deal. People think it's not, but it is. So here we are today, learning together, trying to heal a little bit together, and understanding that we can only move forward together. Johanna and Kailoa will share with you specific laws that they have learned inside out, and help you some tools where we can see who we are, what we are, where we're at. Okay? So Johanna, you go first. Bye. And I know Jocelyn not with us anymore.
No, she's on the other thing.
Introduce yourself, answer. I want to say one more thing. After you talked about the spirit in Ka'u and the people being there, it's always very powerful there. But for me, it is almost overwhelming being in here. Last night I was sitting upstairs and my body was just vibrating. And Jared asked me about my respect. But there's something about this place. I think I don't know what it is. It's just, for me, this place feels like that's good. But there's something magical. And thank you for sharing it with us. I wanted to take a picture underneath the sign.
Oh yeah, okay. I can do that. Yeah. I got you. We'll get you.
I thought we could do it afterwards.
Alright, we'll do it.
You know, I do that because, and I appreciate how you folks introduce yourselves today. We don't always take the time like that when we try to meet new people, but what we're doing is real different, and relationships are really important. And I learned that on our first visit here, because I learned that, I was coming home in a way My dad's family is from Ninole and Hilea. So, and it's a part of our history that we don't know a lot about. But we knew that's where we were from. So every once in a while we come back and check it out. However, just before the presentations, I thought, oh, I wonder if I should invite my kupuna to come. You know which one I'm talking about, right? I wonder if I should open the door and invite them to come. I said, nah, it'll be part of the introduction and everything, right? I didn't need to do it formally. And Jared uses this word a lot, messed up. Oh, that messed me up so bad. My presentation was so off. I was in tears. I was so emotional. And I knew that was because I didn't invite them. Since we've been here this time, we did invite them. And they've been really nice to me. So I've been able to keep my composure. And this morning, I appreciate you, Oli, because you opened that invitation again. Mahalo. And I can see that it's worked with all of you. You feel that invitation. So, if you feel moved, don't be surprised if it doesn't feel familiar to you because it's your kupuna. You probably never met them before. You don't know anything about you, but they know you. And that's what brings me here. So, I was born on Oahu. Um, my dad worked at Pearl Harbor enough so that one day he could afford a home, and we lived in Kaneohe. Uh, I graduated from Castle High School, and anytime my children create a situation where I have to go talk to my parents on what I should do next, and they said, my dad would always say this, pay back Castle Nights. So Kaneohe was a good place. I never thought I would leave, but one day I did, and my life changed. I met somebody on Maui, married, have a family. I was raising my 6 kids, and thinking life was perfect. I was living in a valley. Our valley had taro patches and water in front of our home. That's our front yard. So I thought, this is good. Um, Eventually found out that wasn't. And for whatever, I can't really remember how we got started, but we began to advocate for our water rights. We began to advocate for the Iwi Kupuna. We began to advocate for land rights. And before I knew it, it was a way of life. Um, we were still parents. We still took care of the kids. We still went to work. We did all those things that we usually do. But now we had another focus, which was as important as raising that family and providing an income for a home. Today, I always ask myself, can I ever go back to just being a housewife? Yeah. There's a lot that's going on here. Can I ever take a break and go back there? And as much as I would like to, I'm not going to. My kids are all grown. It's not going to be the same. Maybe it would be better if I went back without the kids, babies again, right? But anyway, it was a good experience. I wouldn't change it for the world. So now we have to move on. How are we going to do that? Um, I started into law because my mother um, ended up being involved in a court case. Friends that were helping her clear the land and clearing the OY to her land um, so that she could water the lo'is that she had gotten arrested, 15 of them. Um, and now she was going to court to help in their defense. And of course, she calls me because I am the oldest of 7 children. And as the oldest, you have some responsibilities. You don't have to ask what that is, you just have to be there, right? Okay. So I went to that court. I wanted to stand up and answer, but the darndest thing happened. I couldn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to say. I didn't even know if I could open my mouth. When is it my time to speak? And then what do I speak about? You know? And that was the most lost or adrift I felt in a long time. And that was enough to make me swear, or I won't swear, but make me realize I am not going to enter a courtroom like this again, that out of my depth. No way. I'm going to at least try to learn how to play the games, play this game by these rules to see what I can do for my mom. At that time, it wasn't my issue, it was hers. So that's when I met Jocelyn. She was part of the 15 that got arrested. And it appeared to me she knew more about the law than I did. So I asked her if one day we could get together and if she would share with me how she learned this. Granted, now, Justin's not an attorney either. She's learned from experience. So she's like only this tall, okay? But when it came time to say, all right, I'm going to do this with you, she kind of twisted my arm. She said, you know, when we get together, it's not going to be, oh, you come when you feel like it, or I'm too busy today. When we decide to embark on this path, you're going to commit. You come to everything, you do everything we're supposed to do. You know, we set up once or twice a week, you come once or twice a week. No excuses. I said, you know, I got to think about it. I got to think about it. I have a granddaughter that's going to be born pretty soon. Can we do it in about a month? And she said, okay. So once that grandbaby came, kissed her goodbye, went back home, and I started with Jocelyn. We would go into the law library and open up a book. And she would read, and she said, oh, look what this thing says. And I said, where the heck do you get that out of reading in this book? And I would read it. Nothing made sense to me. And we're just reading the decisions that the court made in a case. It shouldn't be that hard, right? But it was. But you know, if you keep at it, um, and if you go in there with your kupuna, things will open to you. And that's how our knowledge of the laws began. That was our path. And we would read um, the Kingdom court cases are in Hawaii Reporter, volume 1 through 60, I think. It might be 40, because after that it becomes territory of Hawaii, right? But still, the first 40 volumes are pretty dang good for explaining to you how the law was used in the kingdom time and how they, what do they call it? Anyway, how they used it as a good tool. All right, so we started reading those, and that's where we gained our information. But the interesting thing that would happen there is we'd be studying something, and someone might walk into the law library, another Kanaka, and they would talk about something that was almost what we were reading about. And we would sit and talk about that and see how it applied to their case, whether or not they could use it. Mind you now, we have no legal background. We're just getting what we're getting from reading a book. And we're talking about what we're reading. And they take it off and they go, and they seem to be doing okay with that. And then the next thing that started to happen was we go down the aisles and aisles of books. Right? So I can walk down an aisle and either a book will be sort of sticking out from the shelf or will fall down out of the shelf. And it would contain something we needed to look at. So what we started to realize was, wow, there's lots of stuff going on here. And it's pretty much jumping out at us now. What are you going to do with that? Well, that was what we realized. It wasn't for us. This wasn't ours. It was others. It belonged to everybody else. Um, and around that time, my husband started to come out. I guess he kind of got bothered that I would disappear for half the day or a whole day, 2 or 3 times a week. He wouldn't know what I was doing and where I was. So he came. And this is a man who would make me read parts of a book that I'm enjoying because he doesn't like to read. But we read in there. But he would ask us questions, and we would tell him what we know. And he says, "Oh, that can't be right. How do you know that's right?" I said, "Oh, it's something we read about." "Well, where did you read that?" At that time, we couldn't exactly tell him where, but anyway, that's how he got started with us. And he started to read too. And then came Wilmot Kahayali. Um, and Wilmot was just a ball of energy, but his thing was, show me where you got that. What's the reference? Cite for me that law, that case. We're not attorneys here, we're just kind of learning for our own personal interest. He says it's not worth anything if you cannot tell people where you got that information from. You have to be credible. Well, that's what I did. So, my husband, I should probably leave the rest of the story to him because he tells us really well. We spent a lot of time together, the four of us, where we would sit and talk for hours, and we would talk about different points of the law. And when you're talking about your perspective with other people's perspectives, in law they call it arguing. It's not fighting; it's just arguing your point, right? Getting out the reasons why you think something is as you see it. But that's what we would do. And in that fashion, we were able to whittle away all the fluff, all the parts that weren't integral to the point of that law. And when anybody else would question us about what that law was about or make a statement saying that this is what we think the law means, we could answer to almost everything because we had already explored all those different parts of that law, the potential for right and the potential for wrong. We explored it all. Maybe not all. There's still some I'm sure we didn't. But that's how we move. Um, so now I go back to this. What I'd like to do is give you just a few points on how you might start a research or how you might want to learn about the law. But I will say this much about learning law, that even if we were to give you the places to read the law and the cases, the best way to learn law and how a law works is to look through a case or go through a case with someone now and see how those decisions are made, how the attorneys argue their point, and what the judge finally bases his decision on. It's a huge difference. Anyway, I hope to share that with you today. So the first slide, if you're going to embark in this path, you have to read. That's the most important thing. You have to read. And the second most important thing is, and read again. Okay? That's the only way. You're going to be surprised, but eventually you're going to understand that there's so much you miss in one reading that you can get in later readings. Third thing, think about it. It's something that we don't use a lot. Our own brain, our own brain power, our own experiences in life. But we should bring all of that together when we start looking at something new, specifically when you start looking at law. Because you're looking at it for a way to address your truths. So consider that. Think about it. And then the next important part, because this is how you get to articulate it, talk about it with others. Find somebody to argue with about it. Go find Jared. He loves to talk. And he's got a lot of ideas. And just try and prove him wrong on any of those ideas. That would be a task. We make that a goal. Every Friday, we challenge Jared on an idea and see where his arguments go. And see where your arguments go. But we did that for a while, for a few years, where we would sit and argue, and sometimes all day. those days were blessings to us. We'll probably never ever see that again. But it gave us our foundation. The best thing you can do in any situation is question it. Any law, question it. Any official, question them. Anything that you don't agree with or don't understand, question them. You might question everything. Why not? That's why they're there. Otherwise, if you don't open your mouth, their thinking gets made into law. And the last thing, and probably the most important thing, when you work with people, when you want to find collaborators, agree to disagree. Find a safe place. Make sure everybody's safe, because you're not going to ferret out all those out in the blue ideas that some developer might have already figured out and will argue, unless you make it a safe place for everybody to bring out what they're thinking. And then you can decide what is good, what is right, what will help, what won't. Agree to disagree. And is there anybody here besides Jared who thinks he knows everything about the kingdom? Okay. I'm sorry, Jared, you're gonna be the target today. Because he's so fun for it, right? But we don't know everything. And once you embark on a plan, or once you make a statement, unless you know everything, make room for the unknown. Because once that pops up, you're going to have to decide. And the way you decide that is critical to how you will be perceived. If you're so wishy-washy about that decision, then you're not really the kind of person I'm thinking of looking to follow. But if you can be decisive because you have thoughts already on this, then maybe you're the person that will help guide me. Show me the law. Anybody in an official capacity who comes up and tells you this is the way it's done, you tell them, show me the law. Where does it say that you can do that? And what we're finding out is they understand what they're told the law is to be. But the actual text of the law is not being addressed. You have to find out what it is. So show me the law. And then I'm going to talk about intent, motive, and purpose. It's kind of what the construction of a law is. You have to understand intent of a mischief that has taken place before you can craft a law that should be a remedy to that mischief. And that remedy, if crafted properly, should be a cure, not a band-aid. A lot of what we have today are band-aids. And a lot of them are real bad band-aids. Okay. Last thing, research and reference resources. The law library would be my first choice. An attorney would be a second choice, if you have somebody you can talk to. The next choice, which is the most available, is Google. You'd be surprised what you can find on Google. And in Ulukau. Ulukau has some of the kingdom documents, the 1839 Declaration of Rights. That's critical to the basis of your knowledge, what your rights are. 1840, the divisions of government, and then 1846, how they finally put together all the laws of the kingdom, their understanding of their laws, together with a modern set of laws into what we call the 1846 session laws. And that's where we find the documents that I like to use as a basis for helping you to understand where your rights are and understand how to recognize and use the finer points of law. The next. Oh, next one. I'm gonna eventually get through all of that soon, but I want to get straight to the text of the law. In 1846, John Rickard was tasked with compiling all those laws. The problem was you have oral edicts from prior to the Constitution, and then you have constitutional laws that they want to put into place now. And they're scattered. He had to organize them into categories. But what was nice about it is the plan or the method set up for looking at the laws was we would, the Alii and Koikiuli would draft the law and they would send it to him, he would tweak it, they would look at it, they would tweak it again. They would go back and forth until both sides were satisfied. And when it was, then they would have it ratified. And that's how they went through all of the 1846 statutes. And to me, that is crucial to know. So in the compiler's preface, Mr. Rickard makes a notation, and we call it the Four Doctrines of Law. And this is the first doctrine. He admits that they didn't have a law library, they didn't have law resources, so they had to draw upon their own knowledge and experience. But these are the things they ferreted out that would be the most important to base crafting laws on. Number one, many cases must arise that can only be measured by the old law. This is written in 1846. Does it apply only to 1846? Let's think it of in context today, 2023. Many cases must arise that can only be measured by the old law. What cases are those? Do we have those? Come on, anyway, what cases are those? What would be the subject matter? I'm sorry? Kuleana lands. Yes. Why? Because Kuleana lands also have water. And Land Commission awards were crafted into it were mineral rights, which means they had water rights. But there's a specific way that was crafted. I'm not going into that now. But you got land rights, you got water rights, you got issues over the ocean, you got issues over the forest, you got issues over the weather, fishing. We got lots of issues. And some of those issues can only be measured by an old law. We have a friend of mine who 3 years ago responded to, and I guess, a notice in the paper, a call for descendants, heirs, to this property. And she applied. In that 3-year time, she had to try to prove how she was related to that kupuna. She was not able to show a direct link. She could show that her family lived in that same time period and in the same community as that awardee for the property. Now, according to law, you have to, when they say you have to show descendancy, that means you have to have evidence of it, right? Okay, so in her case, when it finally came down to it, the judge said she hadn't met that requirement, but he had questions. It seems that the property owner, this man, the awardee, died with a wife and a child. The wife inherits dower rights, 1/3 of the property. This child inherits the rest. He's an heir. So the present buyer says, we bought the property from the wife. That's how title descended. The wife had claimed entire rights for the property. The son had died, I guess, and so she was the only living person. Yeah, so, and this was some time ago, and we're coming to the present day, but the judge wanted to find out, And it was the issue that our friend pushed. If the wife had dower rights, what were those dower rights in that time period when that man died? Because the dower rights today are not that way. In that time period, she could only be a dower. She could only have dower rights. That meant she could only have 1/3 of the property. To claim the whole property as an heir, she couldn't do that. It wasn't legal for her to do that. So the judge's decision was that this man who bought the property for $300,000, I think, only had 1/3 interest in the land, and that our friend had proved her argument. She gained 2/3 of that property. That was the outcome. I was like, what? You had nothing. And to tell you the truth, when I heard about it, I said, oh, I don't want to get involved. This is going to be hard. But she called on everybody she knew, and everybody that chipped in and helped her on that. They realized their goal. They won. And it was based on an old law. And what's significant about this is that the court, today's court, made a decision on something that didn't have the mechanics, the trigger, the normal trigger for making that decision. He made a leap. His wording came down to, it's more likely that you are related to this man. The other side only had paper title, and as we know, paper title is just paper, it's not the land. And so he ruled in her favor. That's a huge lesson, even to me. Okay, the next one. Sorry, not that. Okay. New laws or amendments of the old cannot divest rights previously acquired. So new laws are being crafted today. Some of the laws are being amended today. According to this, if I acquired a right, if I earned that right before this law was either created or amended, I still have that right. What kind of rights would that be? You know, yesterday everything was flowing really easy. It's not. I'm trying to remember that case. And I guess now I'm dependent on my phone. I should have known that I wasn't going to be dependent on my phone. Oh, here we go. Okay, the second case was, I sat on burial council for 8 years. And if you know, being on the burial council, you have to take an oath. We all got to take an oath to support the laws of the land, state of Hawaii. I knew that was going to be a little bit of a problem, but I said, okay, I'll do that. So now that I get into the situations, we're finding that the law doesn't go far enough to protect the iwi kupuna. And it doesn't go far enough to recognize cultural and lineal descendants, especially lineal descendants. You know, in order to be recognized as a lineal descendant, you have to identify who that remain belongs to, who that iwi that was discovered belongs to. You have to come up with a name and evidence that proves that. And as you know, in the middle of the sand dunes, possibly 200-300 years later, that's going to be real difficult to find. So, one Kanaka came before us, and this was her argument. She identified her as a descendant of the Keawe Ohana. And she used the argument that the Battle of Kakanilua was predominantly Keawe Ohana. And she also argued that all but 2 died in these sand dunes. And there's over 800 of them that died there. She says, My kupuna are buried here. Okay, but can you tell us whose name are you going to attach that iwi kupuna that we're talking about to? And she says, I don't think I have to, because no one can tell me who he is either. You see how this is so? Okay, she says, everybody knows, right? It's historic. Keawe Ohana was in this battle, and they died here. And our history, Mao's history, also shows, and we were all well aware of this, that over time, people would see the Eevee. They could actually see Eevee on the land. And they would acknowledge that it was from that time. You know, that brought up a lot of questions, but okay, we have acknowledgement that Eevee was there and people recognized it being to that battle. So the Burial Council made the decision that we could not prove who this Eevee belonged to, but we could also not disprove that her claim was correct. And so we acknowledge that she was a lineal descendant for the Eevee that was discovered. Shifty was not happy, but we would find out later it didn't matter. Um, After that decision was made, this young woman was involved in a legal case against the developer of that project, and the question of her lineal descendancy came into play, and so the attorneys charged the burial council to a contested case. They wanted to prove that we didn't have the right to make that kind of a decision. Well, after a year and a half, almost 2 years, we finally discovered there is no law, no policy procedure in place that says they can challenge the decision for lineal and cultural descendancy of the burial council. We were the law. Our decision that day was the law, and that couldn't be changed. We didn't know that. We took the steps, we took a leap, and we did what we thought was the right thing to do. And in time, they proved us to be right. So new laws, amendments to the old laws, still doesn't take away some of those rights that we had from before.
What you did that? Okay.
That we did this decision, I think the second term might have been 4 years ago, 5 years ago, about that time. You're gonna have a hard time finding the transcript for the minutes of the meeting because in that time period, we were extending our meetings beyond the 3 hour limit. And so we had 5 and 6 hour meetings. And it was extremely difficult for the staff to take minutes. And so they started recording it. And the only way you could listen to a meeting or find out what happened was to listen to the whole tape. I refused. But the thing is, our actions were in there. Okay. Next one. This is the second point here. Third point. Means and remedies may be altered to the rights, but the rights themselves, if vested, cannot be constitutionally disturbed. What is vested? Vested means you've earned the right, you've utilized the right. Once you've utilized the right, it's vested in you. So let's take Land Commission Award that you might have a connection to today. You can claim a vested right in that because your kupuna, the awardee, took advantage of it and he acquired that. He took that claim and he has now passed it on to you. So that's a vested right. No constitution can change that. And that's the biggest problem for current buyers. They are trying to get around the Land Commission Award. And in today's law, the Land Commission Award is covered by the tax map P, the TMK. Again, a new law. But we have some remedies. And the remedies in how you understand what your rights are when it comes to that particular law. Okay. Another case. What's the third case? Oh, okay. So the Navai Eha case came up, and that was going on for a very, very long time, uh, more than 7 years, I think, by the time we got involved in it. Uh, but there was some very distinct situations. Um, Earth Justice was the attorney for the Kuleana water users, or people with Kuleana rights and water users. Um, and Earth Justice position was for the right to the water. Um, they didn't take advantage of the claim that Kuleana had to land, a land permission award, and the connection it had to kingdom law. They wanted to keep it separate, mainly because you have Po'ehali who are water users, and they also were the ones backing the financial expenses for this case. So they wanted to be inclusive. I only suppose that that's what it was. But anyway, they didn't take advantage of that law. Instead, they just fought for straight water, and they waited for a long time. The end result in the Vai'iha was that it allowed the state to create an organization that would oversee um, management of water in the Vai'iha. Not what we wanted, not what we wanted. Now it just creates another layer for us to go through to have our rights recognized. But still, our rights are recognized, and this is what I mean. In HRS 174, that whole section is about Kuleana water rights. But in the very last section and very last notation of that section is where it becomes important to us. They talk about how the water can be used, who can use the water, and who's going to manage it, and how they're going to keep track of stuff. But the bottom line says you have to apply for a water permit here. So it reads, failure to apply, oh, this is section 174C.101, parentheses B. Failure to apply for a water permit will not diminish nor extinguish rights.
One more time the section.
Huh?
The section number one more time.
174C.101, parentheses D. So there's A, B, C, D. Make sure you get to the last one. And it talks specifically about water rights, but it says, cannot diminish nor extinguish your rights. So we realize that, well, why do we even apply for the water permit? But in the process of the legal case, the attorneys encouraged the Kuleana users, all Kuleana users, to apply for the permit. And the thing we understand about a permit is that it's a contract. And who are you contracting with? You're contracting with the state again. That means you're going to be subject to the terms of that contract. And that's not what we wanted either. And you're going to find out that anything the state or department or agency asks you to sign, they says, oh, we just want you to acknowledge it. They're asking you to contract with them. And they're asking you to contract your rights over to them. So just be maka'ala, yeah. I'm sorry?
The TNK is almost similar.
It is. It is exactly the same thing. They can capture the TMK because it's languaged in their law. They cannot capture the Land Commission Award. It is not languaged in their law. And here's the thing about the whole HRS. Have you ever wondered why it's called the Hawaii Revised Statutes? What's the original statutes? Oh, it's not on this one, but on almost every statute that I'm quoting from you today that's in the revised statutes, it has a foundational reference, and it all goes back to kingdom law. Everything is before 1900. So most of the revised statutes is based on kingdom law. And that's why we joined at the hip with the state. And when it comes to these issues, the state really cannot bully us to the extent of extinction, but they can continue to bully us. But we can fight back. Okay, go on to the next one.
They're doing genocide now.
I sorry?
They're doing genocide now.
You know, genocide to me is when they actually, you extinct, you gone. We're not there yet. When my husband brought up the thing about Konani, how that game is played, yeah? And the game is played so that the person who has the last move is the person who wins. And we're on that Konani board, and we still got moves. We still have moves. So as long as you still got moves, you're still in the game. Okay, the last one is the old law must first be understood. We're talking about the Land Commission Award, water rights, Kuleana water rights. We have to know what our rights are. And the mischief, that's the problem that's being caused because of those rights, intended to be cured by it. So, in our friend's case with the land, um, the mischief is being created by the current buyer. So you have to understand what the intent of the mischief is. He wants to claim land that pretty much says there's somebody else that owns it. Okay? So now, how do you cure? Can a law cure that mischief? Um, and in some ways, it can, but most often, when a law is crafted, it doesn't go far enough, does it? In 6E, which is the burial laws, when it comes to protection, desecration, the definition for desecration includes that there must be public outcry. Public outcry is so ambiguous. If you think about it, what's the ratio of our population, Kanaka Maoli, to the rest of Hawaii? Lucky if we went 10%, even if we 20%, we 20% of that population. How much is it going to take for the public outcry to be qualified in desecration? So all the time that I was on burial council, almost every instance where burials are destroyed, that's grounds for desecration. But we could never move Shipti to charge anybody with desecration. We could never get them to move the penalties, to levy the penalties on those who violated that desecration law. That's still an undone goal. But it doesn't mean that we can let things go. One of the things we decided to do as a council was, in one case, over a long period of time, this had to be over a 10 years period of time, the developer had not been compliant with basic archaeological and Shipti rules. In other words, you have to give reports of what you're doing. You have to, whenever you get a finding, you have to give a report and you have to follow procedures. You have to contact the police, you have to contact the ME, and then you contact whatever descendants or Shipti staff need to be contacted. And they weren't doing that, none of that. And so when the young lady who was claiming lineal descendancy went to court, this was one of the things she brought up. They don't do their due diligence. And so as a burial council, we decided that it was proper for us to inform the court on what the developer had been asked to do by the burial council, and that they had not been compliant for this length of time. Um, and so everybody signed it, and the chair took it up to the courthouse and submitted it. There's a process called amicus brief. It's a friend of the court, and anyone can submit an amicus brief. What you're doing is providing to the court information that you think will be helpful to the court in making a decision that they may not be able to get anywhere else. And our decision, our actions with this body, this developer, was not being talked about in the court. So we showed the report, we showed the number of times we asked them to comply and the number of times they refused. Lots. And we sent it. Um, I'm not sure how that court has ended. I don't think it has ended yet.
It's called Amicus Brief.
Amicus brief, AMICUS brief. You can look it up for how to do it, but we just wrote it up to Basically, they know we're lay people, so, just want to get the facts in there. Identify who you are, where your credibility comes from, where your authority is in the matter, and then the points that we want to make. So we submitted that, and I felt really good about that. Um, but these guys, years later, still not complying. And so I thought, well, maybe there's another way we can go a step further. Um, and I suggested to the Borough Council, why don't we take that letter that we sent to the court? It's been filed now, it's part of the court records. And why don't we attach it to the tax map key in the Bureau of Conveyances, right? And our Attorney General, that she's she's the legal counsel for the Borough Council, she says, oh, I'm not sure you can do that. Listen, what do you mean you can't do that? Well, there's no procedure for that. There's no policy for you to do that. And we argued about it for a while. And what it finally came down to, there are 9 members on the Borough Council. 3 of those 9 members are large landowners or developers, and the rest are area representatives. However, the time that we were on there, the large landowners, we were more of a one-mind council. We could work together. And so, in a lot of our decisions, including the one on lineal and cultural descendancy, we were unified in that. But in this particular one, what was dividing for us was that many didn't understand the ramifications of the law and how that would affect them personally. And they didn't want to take the risk of being responsible for something. They hadn't had time to think it out, and we don't have time in the council to actually talk about all of those things. So we only do it if we're unanimous, and we were not unanimous. But it was by a small margin, but still we were not unanimous, so we couldn't do it. And it wasn't until after I was out of the council that I realized, see, I'm not thinking yet. They put me in another box in the burial council, so I sometimes stay in that box. But once I was out of there, I realized, oh, wait a minute, it's public record. I should have just taken that record and filed it myself in there. Yeah, so you see how many times we get put ourselves in a box. It's a box of our own making. We just gotta recognize and get ourselves out of that box, right? So, what's the next slide, Raquel? Make yourself heard. I'm gonna save Jared on this. Lanakila makes herself heard. Kaninoa makes himself heard. I try to make myself heard, not in sometimes those very visible and tangible ways, but I try. And I know that every one of you has that Ike and that ability to do it as well. So I would encourage that you follow that path. The point of understanding the law is so that you're free to make decisions, and not decisions that a body is making, that a Hui is making, that your family is making, but a decision that you can live with. You're the one that's got to deal with it. And I know Lana Kila mentioned in the beginning that we have 2 separate purposes here. But the way I look at what we do with Hui Pono is we're sharing information, and it's important for that information. And we also try to instill that ability to be safe in discussing things, sharing our ideas. And by that same token, everybody should be allowed the right to pursue what they want to. And Lanakia's got a vision right now, and she's following it. It's not one that I'm focusing on. Focus is the word, because what I want to focus on is the purity of what the law can do. Don't get it mixed up with other people's personal agendas or other organizations' agendas or a developer's agendas. Don't get confused by governance and all of that. Look to the law for its message, for what it's trying to craft. Have they addressed the mischief? What is the intent of that law? Is it going to go the full measure to provide a cure? See, Lanakila's vision, she hopes will be the cure. My vision is a remedy to a cure because I can see what it'll do for me. Eventually, it'll be my cure. I'm not able to see what it does for you. That's going to be your cure. Yeah. And I really want you to be able to embrace that on your own accord, on your own 2 feet, on your own dime, because then you got nobody else to blame but yourself, right? Okay, and you got every reason why to do it for yourself. We all have different purposes for why we do what we're doing and why we're here, and we all have different reasons that compel us to move and act when we don't really want to move and act ourselves. Embrace those differences, nurture those differences, go after them, go all in on it. You can't lose. You'll just have to start and try again, is all, right? But you're not going to lose. You're going to gain so much with every misstep, with every temporary setback. You're going to learn from it, and you come back stronger. Yesterday, I left my phone at home, so I didn't have my notes. I didn't have interruptions and distractions, and things went so much better. Today, I felt so good having my phone with me, but it's a total distraction. I think I covered everything. Lankila, did anything I missed? And you folks yesterday, did I miss anything that I should have put up today? Okay.
That wasn't No, I missed it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I will go too far.
We can skip this, yeah. Make yourself see. One more? Okay, no, let's stop right there. The last thing I want to share with you, part of history, and it comes after the Constitution has been going, after the House of Nobles and the House of Representatives are in place, and after Kanaka have had a chance to see whether or not this new governance is turning out to be all that it can be. And what happens in this time period is that the Makanana send forward petitions. Previous to the Constitution, the procedure for bringing forth your claims was to go before the leads and to talk to them about it, petition the leads about what's problem, what's hurting you, and what remedy that they can provide. And in this particular instance, as the letters are coming up, there was a phrase that was noted, and I like to key on that. And the message was from the petitioners. Now, I think this island has something like 500 or 600 petitioners. Lahaina had something like 600 and 300 or 400 from other islands, but it was coming in from all over the Pae'aina. And this particular message said, "You are our fathers, and we're coming to you. We are being hurt. We want you to stop giving away our lands. We want you to stop putting non-Kanaka into official positions because we want to still be able to be here." They were afraid that they were going to be kicked out, moved out by this change. And their closing remark, the one that speaks to me, is they ask, "Where is the aloha?" In that one phrase, I realized they were speaking to their fathers as a child might speak to a father. This was not a political situation for them. This was a family situation. This was ohana. This was patriarchal. And they were showing their respect to them, but at the same time, chastising them for not doing right by them. Where is the aloha? And in my search to the laws, trying to understand how they work. I discovered a history, and I discovered a history not just of who our people were and what they did, but what was valuable to them. And aloha and integrity was valuable to them. And now I start to understand why it was necessary for them to go with a constitutional monarchy. It wasn't the best tool. It wasn't the remedy. It wasn't the cure. It was a very band aid. But there was no other choice. You know, they were stuck up against the wall and they took it. But they still a band aid. And we have an opportunity today because we have a lot more freedoms and abilities, and the fact that we know the difference and that our kupuna did it, and we know what we can do. And that's why we have a chance here. Um, Thank you for reminding me about that. I forgot about it. Last night, I shared a word with Jared, one of many words that you find in the law that caused me to think and see law and the people differently. And that's in the compiler's preface. Rickard tells us that, you know, we're looking for, because you understand the law was written in Hawaiian first. So now we're looking for a word to equate crimes. And the closest word they came to was heva. But he says heva is not appropriate for crimes. And I started to wonder, no, heva is something wrong, really bad. Now, if I took the opposite of that, it would be pono, right? Something would be right. So what about pono ole? Wouldn't pono ole be the opposite of that? That is not pono? Or it could be wrong? And so when I went back to the language of the law in Hawaiian, it acknowledges heva and pono ole. And I said, oh, there's a difference here between the two. What is that difference? Um, and I tried to explain it this way. I had a cup sitting in front of me. And I said, the cup is pono right now. It's doing what it should be. Everything is okay. I knock that cup over. Oh, it's not pono. If I leave that cup there, I'm being heva. You see the difference? In heva as crime, they're looking for what the fault is, who's at fault, how bad is that fault, what's the penalty that we can apply to that. Ooh, very divisive, very harsh. Right? But in pono and pono ole, it's a very simple matter. Right the wrong, right the chicken, bring everything back into balance. Right? So like the yacht that kind of sunk off of Maui, partly sunk, they dragged it out and sink it out there. Still have a, still have a position right now. Not pono yet. Okay, I think I said enough. Mahalo.
You want to save questions for the very end, or is anybody?
I have a question.
One question. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
See,
Direct it to here because.
she has hard of hearing, so.
My question was, has any of the precedent that was set been challenged in the appellate court for the land? The case that you mentioned where the guy received 1/3 of the land. Has any of that been challenged in the appellate court?
So I can answer that. It probably go through that process because the guy spent about $300,000 and he hasn't finished the work with the property yet. So we're awaiting, but she's awaiting for that order to happen.
Is this something that will go all the way to the Supreme?
I don't know unless the appeals gives him an appeal,
Yeah.
but we don't know right now because it's kind of unusual. It's an unusual case, so that's right.
Yeah. Is there a legal fund people can donate to in case it does go to the Supreme?
I haven't talked to her about that. She was really stunned that she got anything, you know what I mean? So, right now it's kind of like, since it's a case that's kind of first in its own, to see what outcome it's going to be really depends on the guy who bought the property. So hopefully the guy will go back to where we bought it from and actually go after them.
Yes.
So he can get money.
Hopefully there'll be more cases like that.
Yeah, it's just a big business.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
Where are the law libraries located?
Where's the law libraries? In Maui, the law library is in the courthouse on the second floor, so we just go downstairs, get a key, and go in. It used to be like that. But as time went by, with us being up there, things were closed off to us. Eventually, we couldn't use the Xerox machine, the copier machine. All the Hawaii reporters, well, the first 40 volumes, they took off the main shelves that was accessible to everybody, and they put it behind the counter. So the only way we could get it was for one of them to come up, get it off the shelf, and give it to us. And they would limit how much we take. We also couldn't plug in our laptops or our cell phones. Yeah, the thing is, that particular library was funded by the Bar Association, so the attorneys are getting pissed. Just, it's a public library, and I make the argument that, well, then pay for this public library or open one for us, because that's a right that belongs to the people, not to the Bar Association. So I don't know where yours is here. Do you know it?
Oh, I just wanted to add to that. A lot of our laws are found in Washington State University, their archives, Stanford University. All our laws is hidden up there in the continent, in their colleges. So you just gotta go search your archives. All these Stanford, Harvard, all these big schools, Washington State. You'll find our law books all in their archives.
Our law library is actually, where are we?
Upstairs.
It's upstairs. It was the old state building. Where our state building is, it was upstairs before. But since they made the new courthouse, it's in the new courthouse.
The first floor.
On the first floor, but again, it's like the barriers that we have, it's like you have to go in, and why are you here? If you don't have a case there, now you have to let them. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows anything, but for me, when I go, I usually go UH but even there too, they only give you have to be I'm an alumni. So I graduated with my graduate degree there, but they know me because I'm a presence as well. And over here, it's like they give you, oh, can I have your ID? So that you can have one of the law library books. I'm like, no, I need that book. You are my public servant. I come here, I want to, and it's just, they put barriers. No can use the Xerox machine. No can this. I'm like,
The law library is just one place that you can go and look for some, but it's convenient if everything is right there. In our library, there's computers, and the value of the computer is that attorneys are hooked up to what they call Westlaw or Nexus, and that program digitizes law everywhere. So when you pull up a case, you can get the full brief. But what's nice about the brief is that anytime there's a distinction, whether it's for the definition of a word or the point of argument that he's trying to make, it's footnoted, so you can click on it. Boom! Everything opens up with all the different cases that they might have been tried in that situation and how each case addressed a certain point of that law. So that's the most valuable part, because to manually do that would take forever, and we didn't have that ability. But if you can get an attorney, last year I made a plea to OHA, and Mililani Trask kind of jumped on it because she was kind of ahead of the game a little bit. She says, I get you, we need a law library for our Kanaka, but she was looking to create a library where it's all about Kanaka cases, just focused on that. And that's good too. But if you're going to be fighting a Western ideal, if that's your opponent, you kind of got to know what their positions are and how they crafted that argument so that you can tear that argument apart and challenge it. Yeah, so if you can find someone, I wanted OHA to get a program or be able to acquire a Westlaw Nexus program. Our BOT is coming up end of this month, so I'm gonna go after them again on that. But I want to challenge, ask them, tell them the best thing you can do for Kanaka to make us independent is give us the law. Let us do our own search. We don't need you to come be the spokesman. You don't need me to come here and tell you what to look for and how to look for it. Like here and Jared, they're up to all hours of the day and night looking and researching. Oh, they exhaust me. So, yeah, there's some options, yeah. And some of it might be to be proactive, get OHA to do something. And maybe enough of us start calling them out there for it, they can. But I want a place where we can have our own law library that we can go to do our own research. And not to just research, but kuka kuka. We gotta have that. Take time to talk and take time to think.
So have you run into any problems with the Richardson Law School? So like when I go UAT law, I have to give them my ID to go use the computer, but now how am I gonna access the records there? But have you ever run into any problems with getting records from like UH Manoa? But because I know the professors, the Hawaiian studies there, so I'm like, Kelvin Lopes, Kelvin, I need this, I need that, like, can you send me?
The biggest thing about resources is you need to nurture that resource, right? Because after all, it is a resource. So you got to nurture it. If that's important to you, try and nurture it if you can. But I wouldn't wait on it. I wouldn't hold my breath, in other words. Try to find another way to get at. And you have to also understand Richardson School of Law, they have some commitments. My nephew went to school on a scholarship for law, and he cannot entertain or participate in any case that goes against the federal government or the state. I don't know if it's the state, but he cannot do that. So sometimes when we try to have discussion, we can talk about it, but he cannot push, he cannot push the ideas for him. So, and what's unfortunately is all our Kanaka who are trained that way are in positions in OHA, in the state, in a lot of other organizations, Native Hawaiian Legal Corps, and you got to remember that there's those kinds of conditions on them too. So how forthcoming are they going to be with you?
So, just to update the brother that's asking about the case. So, from what I understand, they actually, I guess, want to mitigate. So, I guess they're talking. So, but right now, we don't think they're going to do any appeal, but that's still a thing.
When they make, when there was a ruling, right?
Yeah, so the judge basically, well, yeah, when you look at what he does, it's basically he's playing safe.
Sure.
One, he knows, because he's been involved in other land cases, especially with Kiamoku Kapu. So he's been in those cases for like 17 years. So he was involved. So with this one, he kind of plays politics. He takes the dower rights and follows it, right? So to be fair, he gives the child, which is our friend, who's an heir, a higher, which is according to the old law, right? She gets most of it, and then he gets to appease the other part, right? Gives the holy guy the dollar rights of 1/3. So he's
That's a settlement then.
huh?
Kind of like a settlement.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, I think she should just fight him. Because right now everything's on her side. But that's my opinion.
We would fight for the entirety of the property.
Yeah. So when she said I gotta find out what 2/3 it said. According to the law, it's an undivided interest. Meaning that the heirs really don't get like the Western's like, okay, if I get 3 keys, you 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. But really, in the king, when you look at the way it's written, it's an undivided interest. Meaning, because there's only one sole title holder, it never gets separated. It goes one is. So that means, as you can use whatever part of the property you want. It's like, oh, we'll take the two houses.
So it wasn't entirely adherence to the old law. It was like a compromise between the two.
What's he asking?
It was.
If it wasn't entirely adhering to the old law, it was kind of a compromise to satisfy.
Yeah, it was. He used it to do a compromise. It's basically what he does, because really should have gone fully to her.
Right. Under old law, it should have all gone to her. Right.
But that's, I get the experience in the state of Massachusetts, how you just talked about undivided interest. It is two sisters who bought this house, undivided interest. And when one died, there was a lot of stuff, rumbling going on, because although the sister had one side, the other sister had the other side. Well, this sister went wanted, but her heirs said, well, we can take the other side. You know what I mean? So I kind of understand what that lady was going through. But if she already got awarded 2/3, let that guy spend more money. Right now, you only like me to give, right?
The thing about land commission awards is you gotta really understand what it all entails, because there's some parts of it we don't get. So the land commission award is meant to stay with the heirs, the awardee's family. And that's why when it talks about heirs and assign, that's all who can claim ownership. The thing is, every owner in their time, can do whatever they want to with the property, include sell it. But the day the owner dies, the moment the owner dies, that property comes back to the family. That's the mechanics of it. They're supposed to come back to the family, and then from there go to determine who the heir is for the property. So even in the case of, well, I'm not really sure I want to go that route, but still, she has an ability to go after that land, that 1/3 property that the current owner is claiming. I think she does, because the interest is ended. It needs to come back to the family. That's the mechanics of it.
So it's interesting. People don't realize that we have a descendancy law, and they actually go through all the bloodline until it's exhausted, and then comes down to even to the parents. If the person is in the state, it goes back to the kingdom. So it's interesting how well developed our actually land laws are.
I got a question. On this item, Edwin Olsen Trust. All over the place he fought. All those guys he fought from, they're all best. So, what you said earlier, that they revert back to the.
It's under the HRS. It's HRS. The last speaker for us tonight is very well versed in that, Justin. It's HRS 172. It derives from 1872, and the operative word in that law is inure, to protect the allodial title. And some of these words you need to go look up, like such as a lawyer. It goes back, but it's inure means to return back to its original state. So the original state would be the original awardee. And to protect, so he's protecting, what happened is that it's protecting the interests of his heirs and his sons. Yeah? So that they will never, it's all about protecting the land for posterity. So So you're correct, right? But how many guys are brave enough to go after it? Is the key.
I never heard about that before, so
Yeah.
I won't be wrong.
Hey, I will be interested in what you meant. No, but you know, and the thing is, to look up HRS.
Yeah, I get plenty for
Yeah,
it.
172.
That just perk my interest like that.
But our sister that does, Jocelyn, who's not here, I mean, she does an excellent job on doing that. But actually, she has a great one today, which, you know, I know we got so much time, so hopefully, you know, we yeah. So maybe I can start so you can, I know I'm gonna pick up all you guys today, and I know still like, Joss will speak. But I'd like to thank my wife, you know, so, anyway, yeah, mine.
Oh, sorry, no, I recall it. This document error, remember last time we had that conversation about the EV Kupuna that they didn't get to?
Yeah, so you know the amicus brief, and he just was talking about that, so only the burial council would be able to go and take that brief to the judge. Oh, I said
it's a public record.
So,
So, as a member of the public, you have access to get a copy of that. How you use that is up to you.
oh, okay, and then, so the easement, in order for me to get to our, and I'm talking about the new ones that we found, that the owner will not let us go on the property. So, so the four that my Ohana found yesterday, she was like, I said, how did you guys find it? She said, went on Omalu, so they went to the kai. They would swim. And I was like, why are you guys in the kai? And she said, because you get so the land eroded, right? So the land eroded and then the water, tide comes and comes. So I'm like, you guys are on Omalu? And she said, yeah, but we found four in the Anna. So I was like, what you guys are doing down there? On Native Hawaiian rights yesterday, so I was in Kaulu, right? And so I end up driving there quickly, go see my Ohana, and then so she's like, but we couldn't even get access down to the kai from up Queen K. So they had to go all the way by Waitaloa and Naihomalu, the public parking, and go that way, so they had to basically swim. So I'm like, oh, with all your Ohana, and she's like, no, it's just me and my Ohana, we just went. But for me, it's like, access, just to get to our other graves, especially on the kai, we always have to go the long way. Because he won't grant us access to our old homestead roads. Because we have old homestead roads that come from the Kojimis down. So that's basically what what we're working on. Because we have old homestead road maps, we have, everything was written, was surveyed.
So with these cases, yeah, I know that we talked about the petition coming up to block people from the area, right, from going down. So the thing is, what you guys have to research is where are all the old trails?
We have that.
Okay, if you have that, then the thing is, it cannot stop you. So you look at the federal law, which is a PASH law, which was fought by Pele Defense Fund, which is Palikapu. Yeah, Palikapu is the one that fought for that, right? So he uses, he has the services of a native, well, they like to call themselves original nation, which is, according to the Americans, American Indians, but they don't call themselves that. They call themselves original peoples. And so,
Turtle Island.
yeah. Well, even that, there's a debate. So right now, the consensus is original peoples. That's the terminology they like to use. So that is a federal law. You can also look up the Haleakala Trail case because in that, this is funny. So there was a lawsuit because it's going to close down certain trails in Haleakala. And so the guys who fight this wasn't Kanaka. It was all these Howleys that was actually using the trails.
Hikers.
The hikers. So, but what they did was use Kanawai. They went back to the Kanawai. And they won their case based on the Kanawai. And that's how I tell the Howleys. I said, you guys lucky. by right, they don't have to let you guys down the beach. It's the only reason you guys get, because they all like things like, oh, it's public access. It's a bunch of baloney. Only reason you guys get to go down there is because they can't stop us. And you guys using our stuff. They don't like when you tell them stuff. But it's the truth. The truth is, you wouldn't get nothing if we wasn't around. Yeah? So, it's true to say, Prash is all about the original peoples, like us, who get actually rights that the federal government cannot, or none of these guys can take away from us. Yeah. So my thing, and that's a good lead into what I did today. Yesterday I kind of delved more into the identity, but I think we have that on video, which Gail will kind of help us get them out. So I'm gonna skip that. It is the most important part of what we do, because identity leads you to be able to take part in what is yours. Okay? If you want to take your stuff back, then you have to understand who you are and how it's relative to you. Because if you don't relate to it, then how can you take control of it? If you can't take control of it, how are you going to get it? Right? So you got to start off on step one, knowing who you are. So we do have that from the last time we were here. So we like to thank the group. I mean, this is a great place. I think this place is cool. I like this place. I like the vibe of this place. You know what I mean? I was like, wow, we came the first time. This is an awesome place, man. You know, so thanks to the young. And you know what? I'm so happy to see many of our young people. Of course, you know, we're so glad to see our generation here too, because we felt those impacts. We felt those impacts. These guys who had to go during the 70s and fight in Vietnam. That's a big thing to talk about too. Because a lot of our people got so impacted that it ruined them. My father had peace, he had the same thing. But they had no way, you know what I mean? They're taking innocent people, thrust into their stuff, and then we don't know how to deal with that. And it's real. You know, Ricky and then brother here, you know, talking about being there, that was a hard time. And coming home and people don't like you, bro, that's crazy. My brother was in all that too. You know what I mean? He went there. Well, his first thing he said, I went over there and killed everybody. Came home, talked to my mom, said, I never let go back again. So our people have been downtrodden. Our people have been taken advantage of. Our people have been doing things that didn't belong to us. So now it's time to turn around, to be positive and take what is ours. Stop being ashamed because of somebody else's narrative. You know, we met a gentleman the last time we were here, and he's actually a native, but not from here. But he said, Hawaii is the greatest country of all. And why? Because we based on one word. Anybody know what that word is? Aloha. Everybody comes to this country because it's the safest place in the world to be on tourists. To be accepted. What's so funny, I was doing one tour one time. The lady asked me, oh, where is it safe to stay? I said, what are you talking about? Where is it safe to stay? I said, any place in Hawaii is safe to stay. You know, even if you go down to like downtown, the people are still the nicest people in the world. You know what I mean? Because why? We built on one aspect. Aloha, love. That's who we are. With all the things happening around the world, all the wars and everything, we involved in all that. We get the same things that are happening over there is happening to us. But yet, we're still peaceful people. And that's the key to us.
Population changing though. I don't think keep it outside now.
And we need to protect that. That is our number one thing we need to protect is aloha. As much as we like punch that guy in the face and stay in the mayor's office, or say in the kind of here, say screwing us, we still gotta live above that. Because that's what our queen said. Be the best citizens. She wasn't talking about America. Because we representing who? Ko Hawaii Pai Aina. So she's telling us to be the best citizens of Ko Hawaii Pai Aina, not the United States. Because they not. One of the things we found out in our discussions that my wife brings up is they realize, I think we realized these people didn't know how to behave. That's still the same today. Police come here, they don't know how to behave. You know? So, but we still the same. We need to build all of it. But anyway, with all the commercials gone. My name is Kanilo Kamano. Mokupuni, Maui, Mok, Napoko, Wahe'e, Ahapua Wahe'e Valley. I was actually born in New Jersey. My dad was in the service, he was in the Korean War. He served. He got into some trouble, so he ended up in the brig. He got court-martialed. We were actually kicked off the base. My mom had 10 of us. She was destitute, and there was only one place to come back. That was home, to the Kulahipis. I mean, we were considered the boondocks. I mean, you wanted to go any place, you had to walk, because there was no traffic in our place. Today it's crazy how much traffic there. But I grew up in the mountains. We had cow patches as far as you could see. The river was only like 50 yards away from our house. We played in the mountains, we had guavas. We never had candy. We had plums, we had guavas, we had mangoes, we had passion fruit. That was what we ate. You know what I mean? That's who we was. Bananas, you know what I mean? And today I'm kind of allergic to some of those things. But, we eat everything. But anything else, that was food, you eat them. But anyway, so that's kind of where I kind of like I ended up becoming a fourth wheel because I wasn't really interested in this stuff. It was by circumstance, which was another case. The water case came up, I started to learn, I started to get more interested. And like my wife said, I'll go to the law library. I was thinking, bro, this place is boring. All they get inside is books. And I was allergic to books. It was like they're sleeping pills. As soon as I opened them, I was gone. But I started to realize that I had to learn. And I'm the one that doesn't like to really read, I glean. And when I see certain words, oh, I like that word. And I just start reading them. But then I was kind of gifted with the understanding. So I can catch on really fast. And with listening to the discussions, it would help me to be able to further that. So my part in this whole group is the antagonist. I'm the one that goes out. I'm the one that makes the trouble. Justin. I don't want out there and I ain't going out. I'm very polite, really. Because I realize that if I keep yelling, nobody will listen. But if I talk, it's like the old commercial. If I talk real soft, everybody wants to know what you see, right? You see two guys going like this. Everybody's attention turned to those two guys. And the old commercial was EF Hutton. When EF Hutton talks, and everybody's repeating, right? Right? That's the old commercial, right? So I realized that, okay, instead of yelling, like, watch the guys, yell at the council, yell at these guys. And nobody listens to them. So I go over there, I'm saying the same thing as them, but I'm being more polite. Hey, when work, it's just all friendly to me. Every time they see me outside, oh, how are you? Kind of talk to me. And these are all council members, because I wasn't attacking them. Because I had to realize that it didn't help me to be, it was, but these are calculated moves. I always calculate what I do. And I calculate the risk, right? So I never gave up, I never gave in anyway, but I was cordial. So I realized they would listen. And so we talked, you know what I mean? I wasn't personal, even though I think you were a jerk or whatever, but that didn't help me. What helped me was to play a game, right? And a lot of them are nice outside of where they are. They're nice people. They're just terrible council members, or terrible mayors, terrible whatever else. But outside, we get along. So anyway, uh, my wife talked about vested rights. So this is what I was actually going to do, a water thing. And a lot of kids because of what Jared was doing. But I decided when I did this presentation in front of my group that it kind of fell short. Because normally when it comes to water, I'm really aggressive, right? So I decided instead of just doing the water, I'll do the vested rights, which is what I talk about a lot. I'm involved in all these things. I now vai kai iwi. I advocate for everything that is Kanaka. And what is mine, I want it. I'm going to get it back. That's my thing. Yeah? So I realized vested rights. Next, please. First, I have to understand, Kumu Kanawai, 1839. This is our Bill of Rights. Those that was there yesterday didn't get to see this presentation, but this is important. You have to let understand your origin of your rights. Now, this doesn't mean 1839 that's where everything for us Kanaka started. It didn't. It started way before then. But what happens in 1839 is a movement to protect what was already ours. Right? Remember I made a statement? They didn't know how to behave. Well, because our Li'i, the Mo'i, Koikioli the third, coming in the third, realized that they had to now protect what was ours so that we could sustain who we were. To sustain aloha, they had to protect it. Right? So they created the Kumu Kanawai. They created the constitutional government for the purpose of protection against these people who didn't behave. Our people didn't need this. This isn't for us. Because we know how to behave. We knew our rules. We were happy with our rules, and we lived that way. We didn't need this stuff. This stuff is for the holy guys. Because to them, like, oh, if it's not written, right? That's what my wife's talking about. Where is it written? What law is that? Where do you show it? Where do you get it from? We didn't have that because, one, we were an oral people, right? So our stuff was passed on generation to generation. Our habits, generation to generation. Traditions, generation to generation. All olelo. All, yeah. That's our ones. But with the influx of these people, they don't understand it. It's like, oh yeah, you can tell them, oh, we will do this. And then they go behind your back and stab you in the back. So our people realized that, so they created this system. Kumu Kanawai, 1839 rights. God has made of one blood all nations of men to dwell on the face of the earth in unity and blessedness. God has also bestowed certain rights alike on all men and all chiefs and all people in all lands. Okay? But this falls short of what actually is conveyed in our level. Next, please. So we do have the Olelo if you want to. And it is, when you research it, it's way different. You wanted to take a picture of the one before? Okay. So.
Oh, you got him?
Let's get
Yeah. Sorry, I can go back.
You like number one? Okay. So number two, these are some of the rights which he has given alike every man, every chief, life, limb, liberty, the labor of his hands, and production of his minds. So as you can see, every man, every chief, yeah? So they recognize everybody. Next. This is number 3, Pauku 3. So God has established governments and rule for the purpose of peace alone. But in making laws for a nation, it is by no means proper, right? We're talking about behavior. To enact laws for the protection of rulers only, okay, without also providing protection for their subjects. Neither is it proper to enact laws to enrich the chiefs only, without regard to the enriching of the subjects also. And hereafter there shall be no means be any law enacted which is inconsistent with what is above expressed. Neither shall any tax be assessed, nor any service or labor required of any man in a manner of variance with above sentiments. This is beautiful. This is not a law. I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? Next, please. Okay. These sentiments are hereby proclaimed for the purpose of protecting alike both the people and the chiefs of all these islands, that no chief may be able to oppress any subject, but that chiefs and people may enjoy the same protection under one and the same law. So you see what they put in here. Number 5, please. Protection is hereby secured to the persons of all people, together with their lands, their building lots, and all their property, and nothing whatever shall be taken from any individual, except by express provision of the laws. A law has to be in place to be able to take that from you. Yeah? Whatever chief shall personally act in violation of this Constitution shall no longer remain a chief of the Hawaiian archipelago, and the same shall be true for the governors, officers, and all land agents. And see, it goes according to the compiler's preference. Old laws, new laws, first need to be, they must understand the old one. This is yours. This belongs to every Kanaka. To what? To enrich you. It didn't say to rule you. It said to enrich you. If the chiefs can be enriched, they can be empowered, so can the people. Because without the people, the chiefs don't exist. Yeah? Ho aina, kalaka mauli, makaina na. Yeah? So the shirt I'm wearing was a shirt that came up with and created. Right? Talks about the native tenant. In the back, the chiefs are no longer here. It belongs to the Makainana. Yeah? So they put the responsibility on us. Queen Liliuokalani's, one of her last words was that the kingdom comes back to its people. Right? Koihioli, what does he do? Empowers the people. 1839. Kuleana Act, 1850. This is all to empower the people. Right? So you have the Kuleana. You cannot wait for Kamehameha to rise out of the grave and go fight all these people. It ain't going to happen. This time is down and gone. The time of the chief and the mo'i, as much as we love them, has passed. The power is yours. Oh, sound like the kind of, what did they say? Next, please. What are vested rights in constitutional law? The phrase vested rights is a property term, and when used in connection with one's right to a remedy, is inaccurate because, in this sense, it means those interests which the state must recognize and protect, which cannot be taken on the individual arbitrarily. Again, they gotta create one law. But can the United States create a law to take your rights away? Can the state of Hawaii? So why do we let them do it then? Right. So why do we let them do it? Because why? They will create their own laws. And they will teach you. And also, but yeah, and that's true. Especially to our ancestors, that's what it was. Yep. At the guns to the heads. Now, because they got us to, change, they're playing games in our minds. But the thing about Kanakas, realize one of the smartest people in the world. You don't know, in the 1800s, we was the most literate country in the world, with about 92% plus of its people literate. Nobody knows that. Why? Because they don't want nobody to know. But only literate people, smart people, Akamai people would create this because it's a Konami move. It's Konami. Again, you never need to rule us. We was already in that sphere of how we was. This is a Konami move. Because what? Oh, we make a proclamation to the world. This is who we are. This is how we act. This is what we believe. This is what we're going to do. We don't mistreat our people. Just because they're subjects, we do not mistreat them. They have as much right as we do as chiefs. That's what they're telling everybody. That's a proclamation. I realize that. Why would they do this and when she came up with, they don't all behave. Oh, okay, I understand now. You gotta play the game. And they play Konami. Because if they never play, and if we didn't have the last move, we'd be sitting here today. This would be irrelevant. But it's not irrelevant. Because they played this for us, and they gave us the moves. So we can continue. And you look around, like that case we were just talking about friend. That's not because of this. Because of the creation of this. If never had that law of power, she would have never gotten that. To be able to, like brother saying, oh, these guys destructed all these lands. And if that's true, I go back. Really? It's in our law. 1872. Konami. Yeah? They think they're going to win, but we're going to overcome. And we're going to overcome not by shooting people, punching out people, but to our country. No, I enjoy shooting guns. But truthfully, when I was working in the prison, I don't know if I was shooting a gun. It's like, man, I haven't seen that like that. You know what I mean? That's I had good fun shooting them. Target. But it's about it, man. I was there in my life, man. I was in about it. That's kind of crazy. But, huh? What is that?
It's such a sassy picture.
Oh yeah, I actually been in post for this. I thought, hey, do this. He was doing it. I thought, hey, do this. So you don't see this. He's a clown. It's my youngest son. You don't know his long hair anymore. His name is Kanawai. But anyway, so I've used the water rights. It's really basically the same thing, all the rights. Whether it be Aina, Evi, whether it be Kai, it's all the same. So I went with water. Who owned the water rights? Next, please. The water is true, like the land was all already a property of the king. Okay? To be disposed of as he saw fit, but the ordinary disposition always again, as in the case of land, to permit its use to the chiefs and to them, to the common people and actual occupants and cultivators. Next. Who was in charge of distributing the water? Next. So they oppose all this. Each chief or korohiki or someone designated by him became the superintendent, lunavai, of the ditch and its maintenance of the distribution of its waters. And such disputes as arose will ordinarily refer to him for settlement. Next. So what changes? Again, I made it pose. Yours alright, this is the best of time. Post contact. After the encounter with Captain Cook on January 18, 1778, many Howleys were now coming to Hawaii, and the Greeks started to infringe upon the traditional way of living. Next. Kawikioli Kamehameha III and the elderly knew that the changes were coming. Through dealing with these foreigners and observing their behavior, was realized these people didn't know how to behave. The Mo'i and Ali'i knew they had to protect themselves and their people against these foreigners and the desires of money. Next. Kawikioli and Ali'i, knowing the kingdom could no longer continue to ignore the outside influence and continue its foreign demands for property, change needed to be made for protection of the traditional way of life, which meant incorporating European types of governance to protect our traditional ways. So, this is not our government. So, this C written, the constitutional government, was it us? We didn't need that. We had to incorporate, and we had to realize that our people, that our kingdom had over 147 liaisons throughout the world. They were living in other places, and they were sent there for one purpose: gather information, learn how the world was moving. That's why, I mean, who does that? They call us savages, but look at the moves we're making. Send out delegations, go make treaties, and learn what's going on in the world. Right? Smart. Next, please. So what did they do? Windsor Chinese 1839 Declaration of Rights. Next, please. 1839. Sorry, we did this. Recognize three groups of people in Hawaii, Hawaiian Kingdom, that had vested rights in all lands, resources, and mineral rights. Next. Declaration of Rights. Moi is the legislative fiduciary body. So basically, the Moi was a government. Yeah. Ali, House of Nobles. And then, and of course, the Makainana House of Representatives. So the thing is, right, like true to the Declaration of Rights, they made sure that there was representation of all parties. The Mo'i, right, and then, of course, the nobles or ali'is, and then the people, the Makainana. They had to make these statements and declarations so it was clear who had rights. And not only rights, but vested rights, which again meant that nobody could take it away. They had to vest those rights. They had to make them pa'a. And so each of these groups were kind of negative to each other. So the league couldn't come down, right? Because they set these laws. The leagues couldn't come in Hana'inui. The Mo'i couldn't come down in Hana'inui if it was against the law. He's still the king, or they still the monarch. They have decisions, they can make decisions if you don't follow the law, but they have to follow the law too. So they're going to take action against you. They have to make sure that the law that they're referring to is already incorporated. Yeah, you cannot just arbitrarily do them. Okay. So again, now this is the last pauku. Protection is served by security to all persons of all people, together with the lands and their buildings. So they have to take all these things into consideration. What rights did you have? You had rights in your lands, you had rights in your building lots, and all their property, right? And then, as you go down, whatever chief shall perseveringly act in violation of this Constitution shall no longer remain a chief of the Hawaiian. And how do we know? Is there a case that we know that they lived up to that? Where if anybody was acting a chief or any of its agents were acting like they would be heaven, as my wife would say. Do we know of any situation that happens where they actually were take away authority.
Well, I gave you the story yesterday of Kaua. I mean, I think I read that in Chiefs. I mean, Kaua, if the chief don't want some good person,
Yeah. The people had two things they could do. One, they could actually get up and leave and go to another pahabua, go to another ali, work for them. Or, yeah, the people had the power. They wanted to get rid of their ali. So there are evidence.
That the chief was building, the people killed him, because he was abusive to the people. Kalu killed several,
They just like killing people.
you know, like that said.
No.
They would talk to the chief, and they would say, we don't like this, the chief wouldn't listen, and that's the problem.
And
Kanawai, before Alphabet, there's a Kanawai called Ki'ika. Those two words, translated in English, it's a consecrated law in Pomokua that allowed everyone here to live in harmony with nature in the spiritual realm. And even the Tahitian, when they came and started eating people, our people never eat people. That's how we kept the group of people. The Tahitians and Fijians came, may I, our people never may I.
yeah.
That's why they left. Our cousins did. Called themselves the Maoris. Some went back up to the mountain. Again, how far back in Hawaiian history may I go? So only going back to, gotta go back to pre-tradition. Wow.
Yeah, and
I get started giving a fire. And I was stopped. I started saying, but my mind is, I still 19. Just came back up here now. Our way, no way. They take our people, they bring us out for fight and kill. We know already to the grave. And we come back with these modern wars. They don't be love. We get off food, we get off crazy, we do drugs, we even kill people. And what's going on now? This is a blessing now. People are coming together. I see it, I'm like, yeah. And I love my Maui brother. So I went to Maui, I lived there a long time. Maui no Kauai, but for me, he got to go about it.
Oh, yeah.
Go better because I bought him fire. So,
no.
I didn't know. You know.
Yep.
I love to do that.
Yeah, we know Ricky. But see, that's the thing, right? We're talking about what happened in old laws, and they kept it alive. There was a little difference. They were just okay the power. So in 18, during the Mahele, the people had a right, when they started to get their land commission awards, they created a law in 1850, which is the Kuleana Act, which allowed people to go gather in the mountains, whatever they needed for either to build their hale or to eat, or what they were going to use. They could only use them for their own use. Right? They couldn't sell them. But what was happening was the Konohikis, when it became heaven, they weren't allowing the people to exercise that option. They weren't allowing them to do it. So they were Hana Inu. So the law came in 1851, was revisited in 1859, and was amended. In the amendment, and I wish I could put it up here, but in the amendment, it is that now they didn't have to ask the Konohiki for permission. Because in the original law of the Kuleana Act, you had to get permission from the Konohiki. But because all the Heva came up and the people came forward and they would grumble to their lead that, hey, you're not letting us do this. And okay, they would live up to what they said. That you no longer going to be one chief, or you're no longer going to be a governor, or you're no longer going to be a Konohiki. They're going to take them away. Because you didn't know that. And you went against the law. So they had to make sure that they followed because they knew that these holy guys were watching them too. And they did. They lived up to their laws. They lived up to what they print. You take the Constitution of the United States, how many times they live up to that? None. The first thing, what they say, they say all men are created equal. Like, young. Yeah. That's another discussion. But what we have to realize is that what this declaration does is set precedent of letting everybody know in the world this is what Kanaka is. And we still this way today. We kind of lost our way because they tried to change us. But there's always something bringing us back. Bringing us back. And that bringing us back is aloha. Love for our country, love for our queen, love for our people, and the lands that we live. Yeah? Because as I learned from original peoples, they, just like us, they're part of Aina. They're part of the work, they're part of the whole aspect of life. They don't think themselves to be better than the trees or the rocks, but all relative. In Akumalipo, it talks about halo, yeah, or it talks about the color. Color becomes very important in our history. Because why? It is our relative. If you don't know the story of Haloa, you need to go read the story. Because it talks about the first Kalaka. And that because Haloa is the first child born, and then dies, and the plant comes out, Kalo, goes from its pico. Kalo is law, and was a law. For you to get lands, you had to plant Kalo. And the more Kalo you grew, the more land they gave you. And that's why they call it, and more water. That's why they call Vai is rich. Because when they saw all these stuff, that's, oh, you must be a rich man. Because he grew the kalo. And the kalo was what sustained us. It is the most resilient plant you ever going to see. Kalo really never dies. It shrivel up and all of a sudden the thing will boom, that thing will grow. Grow with water, without. And it's a plant that you can eat everything, from the top to the bottom, and you can regrow. So, a lot of things we need to know about ourselves. But this is one of the, if we're going on this journey, this is the most important thing. We talk about lands. This is the law. Kanawai, of our property. And it shows the word, alodia. Alodia. I makaina na. So they gave allodial title to the makaina na, to the people. Allodial title is a French word. If you don't know what that word is, it talks about absolute. So when they gave the titles, those titles, the land commission words, they were absolute. Meaning, and the way you make it absolute is that you have only one title holder. I never use the word ownership. That is Hawi. We don't own, Keakua own. Keakua is the great creator, is who we look to for life. Aloha. Yeah, breath of life. So this creator gave us life, then he gave us land. He created that for us. So he is the only one that owns everything. We just stewards. Yeah? So we have a kuleana, which is what the mo'i gave to us, the kuleana. And we gave our responsibilities to malama, aina. Yeah, malama vai, malama iwi kupuna. Yeah, all these things. That's what we do. And by malama, we get taken care of. Reciprocated, yeah? We're not going to get property because we like sell them for 1 point, Maui, quarter acre, $1.5 million, $5 million undeveloped land. It's so much cost. Yeah, on Maui, there's so much land cost right now. But that was never what their intention was. You need Aina as much as Aina need us. Without Aina, we cannot provide for ourselves. Without Aina, without us, yeah, cannot be cultivated or cannot. Yeah. So we both need each other. But this is the allodial title. Yeah. So allodial means absolute. So when that kupuna of yours got his land commission award, they were given the authority over what happens to that property. And it made it an allodial title so that, again, like the Declaration of Right, it's now vested, cannot, cannot, cannot be taken. Yeah? Once given, cannot be taken. The Ali'is and the Mo'i alienated their rights or interest to the property and gave it all to the kupuna. And they made the laws we talked about earlier to be able to protect that. So this is what you have. Yeah? Even if you never make your claims to the Land Commission Board, you still the Ho'aina. And in the old law, Ho'aina will never be left destitute. You will always have a place. Because they understood that it was important to be part of something. You had to belong. They couldn't exclude you. Because everybody was important to the whole system. Nobody was considered poho. Everybody had to work together. Yeah. Had to work together. So everybody was important. And the chiefs knew that. Without the people, how was they going to build the roads? How was they going to build the OIs? How they was going to take care of the land that they had that was given to them to protect? It was to the Hui, to the Makainanga. They were the true cultivators. The leaders, the administrators. I'm not saying we live in a perfect world. I had a discussion with my cousin. You know, they talk, oh, we don't want to go back to the kingdom. They were terrible. I said, okay, I think that. So let's look at what we have. No sense arguing, because I was already in the head. Right? So I thought, okay, let's take what America gave us. So what we get with America? We're hungry, we're homeless, we're illiterate, and our health is the worst. This is what they gave us. Whew, everybody chill. Chill. Yeah, that's what they gave us. Has it changed today? Has it changed today? They still talking about the same thing. We look around, there are more homeless guys than before. More of our people out on the streets, no more housing. You're talking about families, no more houses now. Our health, diabetes, heart attacks, name it, we get them. And we're probably one of the highest places in the world. So they gave all these gifts to us. They give us all these things from them. So what we had, what did we have on our own? Best education. Was illiterate people in the world in 1800. Health, we never had anything wrong with us in today's day. We had perfect health. Right? And then we ate every day. We ate every day. Yeah. We had a house. Everybody had a holiday. Everybody had land. So I told my and she looked at that and said, you tell me, where would you have been? There's no question. Get away from this, get back to that, because you had everything. That's why they never have what you want. Never have that envy. Never have those things because they had what they needed. And they was good with it. You know, I mean, of course, you see the shiny new thing. Everybody likes the shiny new thing. But when you look at it, and if you look at this, why would you want to go anywhere else? Why wouldn't you desire to have this back? Why wouldn't you want to be there? Just imagine what our country would be like if our country is still active. What would it actually be like? You know what I mean? where the people are in charge of what happens. You know, and we understood each other. So, do I have anything up here? Is there any more?
Right.
All right. So this is the law. This is Civil Code 1859. This is the Kuleana Act. It actually derives from 1851. This is the amendment they made. The C said, where landlords have obtained or may hereafter obtain alluvial titles to the lands, the people of each of their lands shall not be deprived of right to take firewood. So you need a firewood? You can go take firewood, cut firewood. House timber, you need to build your outlet, you can go and pick. Cord, bats, keys from the land which they live. And again, this is the catch, for their own private use, but they shall not have a right to take such articles to sell for profit. We look today, everybody picking all that stuff for profit. What do we have? Nothing. Fisheries dying. Our waters dying. Everything dying. But they knew. They understood. You can use it for yourself. Make sure you can eat. Make sure you can drink water. Make sure you can build your holiday. It's all good. But you're not going to sell them. That's not what they're there for. They're there for you to use, make use of, not take advantage of. That's Western. That's why our countries die. Because we're taking Western philosophy, capitalism. Look at what it's done to us. But we have this right. You don't need to go to the kind laws. You go in the car, go find what you need for making a holiday, and you can pick them all up, come home, make your own house. No need permit. No need. What you gonna do in the house? You gonna sleep. That's it. That's all they do. Go sleep. They don't stay in the house all day, playing on computers, watching TV, watching. They never have time for that. They went out. They went hunting. They went fishing. They were looking in the color patches. That's why they was healthy. So they were strong. They knew where their food came from. They ate what they made. No need McDonald's. No need doctors. Well, you can make your own hamburger. But the guy, yeah, I was going like, oh, no more shakes. The people shall also, sorry, can you go back, please? Sorry. The people shall also have a right to drinking water. Water rights? Right there. Was already given to you. 1815, wow, way before this. It was codified. It was written right there. Drinking water and running water. So you're supposed to be having drinking water and running water. What? One, you gotta live, you gotta drink water, you gotta cook. Right? You gotta, But then running water, color patches. So they denying you and telling you, charging you money for getting water to us, you should be pissed. Because that was your right. Prior to 1859. They just didn't put them in writing. So you have the right. Don't tell me about water rights because it's right there. Yeah, it's right there. And we're talking about what do you guys pay for your guys' cars, run on the road, pay the road tax, right? You guys pay you gotta buy insurance. Right there says drinking water and running water and the right of way. Huh? So you had access. You could move about. The springs of water, running water, and roads shall be free to all. Is it free to you guys?
You know how to get around that. You gotta help people.
That's not your problem.
I know that, but that's what they tell you.
Yep. So the challenge is, do you have an interest in that road? So they go charge. And shouldn't they have paid you? See, all these other guys, foreigners, howlies driving around on our lands, shouldn't they have made a check for you? And I told them, I told the water department. I said, yeah, you guys sell a car now? All the water. So my picture. He thought, well, what you mean? I said, I get rights to the water. For my picture. And he used to my mother's water. I said, my mother's water meter. She paid $800 for him. I said, that? Two cops standing in the back of the room. I like you arrest the director. The director looked at me like that. And the cops laughed. I said, why you laugh? I said, I'm crying. He's dead. He just said they took him. And you know what he told the director? Oh, can we talk to you after? Because I was right. I said, I told him $800 was for what my mother went pay for. What my mother went pay for, $800. If you can just take them back. Maybe they the Indian gave us.
Yeah.
No, but he said, looking at me like, they never think anybody would say that, right? Because you know what they do now. How much is one water meter? 30,000. 30,000 $1 meter. One water meter, 30,000. That's almost 10 years ago. 30,000. Because they only like developers buy them. That's who they like now. Guys gotta take out second mortgages for putting water meter in the house.
Well, legal to have water catchment.
Yeah, they're in outlaw that too. You know, like on Maui, you cannot get. You gotta get permit.
Well, we got a best of this. Water mains from Skippick Hill coming into Hilo is all asbestos leading.
Yeah. Sorry, like one more time, please. Sorry.
No.
So you guys have the water for drink, water coming to it, the right away. So they take cut off your water. And the right away, the water to come to your place. Springs of water, running water, roads, all free. On the lands granted in fee simple as Nagan. That's how we. Provided that they shall not be applicable to wells sources which individuals made for their own use. This is the HRS that you can find. So this is your gathering rights, your water rights, your rights to traverse without any encumbrance. Every Kanaka should be fighting for this. Because every time you pay for water, every time they tax you for your cars, you get 1/3 interest. Right? Who gets vested rights? What people get vested rights in Hawaii? Who did we mention? Yeah. The Ali'i, the Mo'i, Makainana. So that means you get 1/3 interest. Where's your 1/3 interest of that paycheck?
That means all Kanaka should be wearing one shirt with that HRS on them.
You know, you're right. Yeah. No, that's a good idea. Right? And the thing is, we all should go grumble, get together, grumble with the time, with DMV for charging us, writing on our own. You should just send us the stickers for free. Just mail them out to us. And then you should send a paycheck with them for all the holidays that they're in charge. Hey, can you imagine how much money they make off the big semis that drive, that they register every year?
That's another thing too, right?
That different, that commercial, right?
No, make difference. There's your road, huh?
No. I say, the guys who say run the truckers and the companies, they should pay.
Yeah.
Well,
But us guys being, us guys make,
Us guys who actually are insurance. Sure.
I guess my rate is, we don't need a license to drive in Hawaii, right? And because the fact that it's not the police that's supposed to be citing us for these traffic tickets and all this stuff they issue. My understanding is it's the PUC, right? The Public Utility Commission, who's supposed to be issuing these traffic citations. But these traffic citations is only for PUC, people who's getting paid to drive, right? And so I think in court, that gets tossed right out, whatever DUI you get, whatever, that thing will get tossed, but the judge will tell you wait to the end of the court system. Maybe you gotta go back to the end of the line so the judge can tell you case dismissed. Because they don't want everybody knowing that PUC.
Right.
Right? They don't want everybody.
But if we purely go by, but the risk, and I understand, and this is where aloha comes in. Just because you have the right to drive free doesn't mean you drive any way you like.
Right.
You should be more responsible. You should be more responsible because you are upholding the right that was given by your kupuna.
How about, I should say, where's my 1/3 interest with big dollar signs?
Well, I kind of hesitate to say that. I'll say, where's the whole? Is the mo'i here? No. So who representing the mo'i? Who say, who coming for the leaves? Everybody can almost get genealogy that ties to the leaves. So you know what? Only get one class of people left. Who is that? No. So please, federal government, send us our checks. Because you're using all our stuff. You're using our water. They're making trillions of dollars giving away your water and giving you nothing. They're making trillions of dollars taxing all these guys for the roadways. And they don't even fix our roads. Our roads is the worst. With the Kanakas, we get the worst roads.
I don't start making noise. You just making up.
But the thing is, but then about the right of way, the roadways, and bro, it's like you're gonna realize how much I think about this stuff.
Now that you brought that up, I give you a situation. I was looking at my whole land map code, and certain areas get government roads. But this one map I was looking at, code, never had the road. And then when you look at the PMK, now get the road. But I don't see where they would take that road away. You know what I mean? It's was part of the award and Ahupua'a. But like what is the main road going south? Highway 11. Right through. When you go from Hile'a, Kalaiki, to Oahu, all of them, no more that road, but now get it. So I think we could go down. Hey, you guys will come, you guys gotta go.
Oh, okay. Well, the thing is, if it was me, I would. But again, you know what I mean?
The idea is we gotta beat them to want to tax.
Well, the whole thing comes down to, now that you understand what you have, what do you do with it? Yeah? That's the discussion we need to have. Because, we talk with that. That's, we just, because we figure, we just want to, right? Again, comes back to the word aloha, which tells us we have to do the right thing. Okay. I don't know, okay, we don't like go. I don't go, okay, I don't like go to the road. No, but you know what I mean? So, these things we talk about is to, broaden your perspective of who you are and what rights you have. Right? But then again, you have to be responsible. You have to be responsible with that. Because otherwise, it comes out wrong. But I think the last slide, sorry. And this is the Act to Regulate Rural Patents, 1872, right? Every rural patent thereafter issued upon award of the Board of Commissioners to quiet land titles shall be in the name of the person who the original award was made, even though such person be deceased, or the title of the real estate thereby granted has been alienated. And all rural patents so issued shall inure to the benefit of the heirs and assigns of the holder of such original award. HRS 172, Section 1112. So they recognize our rights. Yep. So if there's a rural patent and you relate it to that kupuna with the Land Commission award and rural patent, then you have the right. It signifies right there. Inor again means to go back to the original state. Meaning whatever kupuna had the Land Commission award will always be the one with the title. Everybody else is just a beneficiary or heir of that person's award. They are not owners. You gotta realize that. It's not only person that has the right to the title is already dead. And even though they be dead, they still own that title or hold that title. You just benefit from their award.
So how are you transferring land in that instance?
TNKs. And I kind of challenged this too. I wrote to the director of finance, wanting to understand what was the interest that the county was claiming. They said, they wrote back to me and basically said, oh, we don't have any interest in your lands. Because they can't, because I asked them, and I gave them my hand and everything. And I said, where does the interest fall? I don't see it. And they had to admit, we don't have an interest on your land. We don't claim it. We claim you as a United States citizen. That's when I went into the thing about seeing whether or not I was fight against being an American citizen, which I also got a response from the federal government, which was the Treasury Department, which, because of the federal documents I sent, had to say that I was correct. I'm not a United States citizen. But their response to me was, you live in America. So I get the county saying, no more interest in my lands, right? But because I'm American, but to the federal government, they say, okay, you're not an American citizen according to their documents, but you live in America. Well, you guys better get together because what you're telling me is, I'm not an American and it's not America. And if you go and look, and my wife went to research, there is no land patents, United States land patents in Hawaii. Because all lands was claimed by the Kingdom of Hawaii and was put into record. So all lands are recorded, and it's called a royal patent. So all lands in Hawaii, 4 million acres, all are recorded.
That's all including all the way up.
Yeah, but they log all the lands. They have to. That's why I said, look, they're the smartest people in the world. They trap these guys so good, and it's for your advantage.
So no more government lands, like how they say government lands.
Well, there is government land, there were public lands, right? And there were private lands. Public. No, they had public lands. So the public, they had governmental lands, they had public lands, and they had, of course, the Alidis had their own lands. Yeah, just like we have. Yeah. Well, they also had to go to the process of registering their lands. So they have to go to the permission field. Yeah. Private lands. Yeah. But they registered their lands in everywhere. They went to the process. They have to make their claims now. So the ones, when they call crown lands, they took them from, that includes the Leo Kalani's private lands. So she had lands there. They say, oh no, you're the queen, you don't have lands. It all belongs to the government. Yeah, they made them. But mahalo, let's hopefully help you guys. Mahalo. Sorry, Jocelyn.
Like Rada said over there, you can't line up.
Ready for attack. Okay, so,
Yeah,
But if anyone who is deposed should change his course and regulate his conduct by law, it shall then be in the power of the chief to reinstate him
which
in the
Paul is
place
that?
occupied previous to his being deposed. I just didn't see it in the presentation.
So it's, Yeah, so it must be one, cause that one originally, when I looked, they only had the 5 pulp.
There is 5 couples,
Yeah.
and this is the last one.
So it's part of the last one, I'll have to go look.
I think maybe 2 got split up in the top.
I'll have to go look. Because the one that we use is actually the original copy of the declaration.
Cause I like you right to let me know.
Yeah, we
That's
get,
what I pass out.
yeah, so we, and maybe so, but I don't remember reading that part. So I'll have to go look, because our stuff came from like Stanford. So what people don't realize is that in the mainland, Hawaii was a big, especially for the laws, law schools, Hawaii was a big popular because of the annexation and because of the resolution and all that stuff. So there's a lot of big debates on that. So Harvard Law
And
School,
all the debates say that
Yale.
we're not supposed to be annexed.
Yep, well, one thing.
Well, they were just using it to practice because of its complexity. Yeah. Of course, you know, then it's like, but they all realized it was wrong. But of course, if you read the footnotes of their opinions. But again, it's a thing, right? An opinion is an opinion. It's not something, because what people don't realize is that attorneys and judges can make it a legal opinion, but the thing lies with the executive, which is the Congress and the President. And according to it, that's the next discussion is a political question. Right? A political question dictates that no courts in the land can question what the executive body has already legislated. Right? It's called separation of powers. So, legislation makes the courts uphold them. So they don't make them. So the thing is, if you have, then it comes to being ambiguous. If it's ambiguous, go with what's written. Because
The courts can define and refine our law, but not necessarily change the law.
so you can always appeal on refinements because, again, it's just an opinion. And it's an opinion. I said it's your opinion. Where does it? You have to still get an opinion. But because you got a law degree, doesn't validate it. It's still what you consider to be an opinion. Right? But they like to put on my job so we do the so it doesn't change what was legislated. Because the guy who wrote the thing, no, the legislative body is not lawyers.
I wanted to make sure I was on the right one.
You know what I mean? So we have to go again. Whenever there's a law,
Oh, so you wanted to just stay on
it's like a
that last
question,
one.
it's ambiguous. And a lot of times it's in their favor.
Okay.
You got a question. Like when I
Okay,
went through
cool.
traffic case, one traffic case, and I was, you know, so, oh, you're talking about jurisdiction, you're reading that you see.
Okay, so open the current Zoom.
We have the authority. So there's nothing different to say, then, you know, we're gonna move on. I said, no, I do.
Connect
It's idea that I don't want to say. It's highly prejudicial that the state
This is
has
hosted
a
another
reason
meeting in
to keep
progress.
us this way, and you name the Supreme Court or the judge that shut them up. Because you never let them be on record. I was questioning his, right? Because they do. And the question that the thing is,
I
they
using two
saying
separate
they get
computers, so I
authority,
at least kept
and the
it.
state is saying they get authority, but how can, when the body politics, which is the president and Congress, made the decision that we not American citizens. So how can a judge who doesn't have that legislative power decide different?
Also, they say that people born in the state of Hawaii are not US nationals. They don't get the nationality either.
Well, that's why they created,
Just
like I
close.
said, that's why they created a Native Hawaiian. The Native Hawaiian does it. Because they also did the law of 1959, the Nations Act. when they
That's the
start to say
one
that,
current email.
when they created the native line, the Jews in they already went against that in 1959.
Unable
I
to
think
join
too, everybody
this entity is
is
not
not native one, and then like, oh,
Yeah.
pretty,
Sure. So, and that's why they kept, that's why it's so upset with
So,
university.
because right now I
They
had
use
3
that term
emails
so
you
loosely.
sent. You sent one that says
And they don't
presentation.
realize
The
that
second
you
email was
expose
second
them.
Zoom link,
Yeah.
and then the okay, and then the third
Oh,
one
not
just said
all of them.
current
No,
Zoom.
we cannot say, that's like saying
So,
that all white people is bad.
The structure of the
No, but it's,
University of Hawaii is that way.
maybe the structure, but you cannot say that all people are like
okay,
that.
so I can't do that.
Because they could say the same thing to us, that we are all like this.
They
That's
are
not true.
responsible.
Right, they should take responsible action, but do they have enough information? They
Yeah,
told
you know, I'm
every
seeing both
the
of the
students.
second
So
and
to
the
hold
first.
every single
You know,
professor,
yeah, we tried doing just brand
it's
new.
not fair.
Sorry,
Yeah,
we should have just stayed on.
So it's sufficient, yes.
Yeah, because in my job, it's corrupted to the education
Understand.
system, so.
But it's not by their choice. Again, the crime that the United States commits is omission. They're omitting something. That's not crime. Because they tell you, check the United States, check the
Okay,
United
yeah,
States.
yeah, because
When
you know
go
that's
now,
why he has
get
1
on
o'clock.
Social Security,
Shucks, okay.
get Social Security, and get
That one
taxes.
was the second
Go to
Zoom
this,
link, yeah.
do this, do
Second
this,
Zoom
do
link.
this. They will guide you when they wanted you
Correct.
to keep you in certain sections. They never give you all this other stuff that you actually free, that you don't have to pay taxes, that you don't have to do this. They omitted all this stuff on purpose.
Unable, yeah, it keeps
But
we
see
keep
that
saying
one
that
someone
unable
today
to join.
don't realize that. Anyway, she ready.
No, maybe just a little bit more minute.
Make it
Because you guys, yeah, she had it scheduled for 12, and then she had to reschedule it for 1, and then yeah, just enough making so we went over because we told her 11. Yeah. Any more questions, Ken? Okay.
Yeah, maybe take a little break.
Yeah, stretch.
Yeah, I think one of you, but you understand again. You're going to take a minute.
Can do one. Just start now.
Yeah, how am I supposed to be late today?
Let's take a little break.
Yeah.
Exercise,
Yeah. How old is the sticking me up?
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Right. Perfect. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Want to do a check. You can go ahead and try to speak just to check. Aloha. Yeah. No, I cannot hear you. Something on speak. Wait, let me see if I can. Oh, there you go. Sorry. Hello. There you go.
Okay, let me find.
Okay, view. Speaker, full screen. Oh shucks, I forgot I gotta screen. Okay, Josh, you stay on mute. I don't know. You gotta check. It seems like it knocks off on mute every once in a while. Click to see switch. Because I cannot hear you now. Check, check. Hello, hello. You know what? I might have to change the setting now again. It's shucks. I think it's in the sounds. I gotta figure out output, out to. There you go. Try check. Hello. Okay, because I can hear you. Yeah. Hello, hello. Yeah. Okay. So I hear you there. I just need to get you onto going out of the computer. I'm sorry. I think when we got disconnected, it made me have to reset the. Shucks.
No worries. Everybody needs to stretch, go bathroom.
Okay, there you go. Oh, there you go. We hear you.
You good?
Yep. You can. I've got you on the screen now. So everybody has your attention. Sorry.
Oh, nice. I can see.
Yeah. There you can. Then that way you can see everybody. You can still hear me. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can call everybody to attention. Okay. When you guys ready.
Oh, the room came quiet. Hi, everybody. Can you hear? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, my name is Jocelyn Costa. I live on the island of Maui. My ohana actually comes from Ko'olau, Moku. More particular, our kuleana is in Kopiko'ula in Nahiku. But my presentation is more of on a personal level. And what I'm hoping to bring today is calmness, goodness, and our possibilities. Because listening to the two presentations and the introductions of everybody, I heard one person in the audience say they move mainly with the spirit and Kepua. And if you talk to Johanna, that's pretty much how I move. As the wind just blew my paper off my computer. Also, I I heard that people are mad, and that's how I was. I went through different phases, so it's okay. Yeah, I was mad. I was confused. I was even hesitant of even speaking because I don't know if I was smart enough or I was speaking in a caliber that people would understand. Um,
And I've learned today that not to be apologetic because of who we are, but to be proud of it and become it. We don't have to morph into other people's narrative and agendas. And I also want to I want to first ask everybody to create a thought with a one sentence, a short sentence. And when I ask you to say it, I'm going to ask everybody to say it all at once. And the statement I would like everyone to make in the room has to do with what Jared had said. Yes, you again, Jared. And it was about our commonality, how we're going to become together. And so my question is, we strive for our country. How can we achieve that task? So think about that. Because when I say, okay, go, I let everybody speak to that one question in what they think. But short sentence, okay, not dissertation, short sentence. Um, so in this beginning, Kalama, I'm going to get my paper. Okay. So in my presentation, right in the center, and I'm not sure if everyone was able to get a copy of it, is the doctrine of political questions. But this also can be just about us, a political question. Are we, as people, political, cultural, or both? Or is it one and the same? Yeah? Is it one and the same? And so I am going to ask the question now of what everybody thinks. And when I go 1, 2, 3, everybody shout it out. Okay, you guys ready? Yeah, thumbs up? Okay. So, we all seem to strive for our country. How do we achieve this task? 1, 2, 3, go.
Education. Oh, I like that one.
Okay, so I like that everybody had differences, yeah, of how we're gonna do it. But the question was, what do we need to achieve? And I have this one little thing, and when I came up with this, I had a vision of our queen, and she was um, in her room, held captive, and she was sewing that quilt. And I pictured her hand holding that needle and tugging on the thread ever so carefully to give us her message. And so when I thought of that, this is what came to me. In order to unify a people, we must first find the common thread that binds us. And then all what you folks just said, all gonna come into play. So for me, when I looked at the common thread, it was the Kuwait petition. This was a moment in time in our people when we were unified. We had differences of how we do, what we do, who we do. Some just wanted to stay in the tarot practice, some just wanted to play around in the legislature. But even with all of that, we became unified under this one commonality that we love, the love of country. And the answer to the Queen's request to protest forever. So what did I do with this? Connie talks about identification. I went to the court petition. On the, I guess, left side of the screen where there's lots of signatures, if you look at line 33, there's a woman's name, Ke'ahe Makani. That is my great, great tutu lady. On the right of your screen, line number 3 is H.H. Kuhelepo. That is my great, great tutu man. If you follow down below Kuhelepo on line 6, is Aka, looks like Aura, but Aka or Arthur, that was his son. That is my great Tutu man. Yeah, so it got me now thinking about identity. And what does that mean? What kind of kuleana does that bring to me just because we signed this unified under the people's petition? This was a political move as a cultural people. We were both. So this year, this poster I started for our family, and there's the Kane and the Wahine signature. In the middle, you see there's these pictures attached to the signature page. That is my great Tutu man, Aka. So I had a picture of a man who signed this petition. Why? Because they took him out of Nahiku and threw him in Kalaupapa. And there they had a camera, they could afford it, and they would take pictures of all the patients there. Down to the right side of the picture, there's a woman with her hands crossed in front of her. That's my grandma. So this man, Aka, that's her father. To the left of the screen, in that handsome man with the Marine's outfit, that's my father. So that's my grandmother's son. And therein is the rest of the pictures of our family, myself, my kids, my grandkids. So what did we do with that? We took that original Kane petition for our own family, and from Kuhelepo to Aka, we saved a space for my grandma because she wasn't Kane. We just made one space for her. And then we continued with my father, my brother's son, and his son's son. So when you count on this petition, you have 7 generations standing to current day. To me, that was important to first identify and do. Because without this, without that connection, I don't have roots. I don't have foundation. And I encourage everyone to go find their kupuna. Find plenty kupuna. You can find genealogy within the Kue petition. When you not only look at your kupuna, but look at the people who signed with them. You might find some familiar stories within your own ohana as to why the names they were talking about. It maybe wasn't the same place signing the petition. So, what did I do with this information? I started studying the laws, and mine was about the land. So Connie had showed you this law of 1872. And in 1872, I didn't find it at first. What I found was the HRS, because that's more readily available to us. But when I looked at the HRS, if you look at can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Okay, you see that? It references the law of 1872, chapter 21, section 1. So just as Johanna was telling you, you go back to the intent of the original law. I will go look over here. And when I looked over here, it wasn't really the same law because these guys, state of Hawaii, was talking about land patents. Our law was talking about a royal patent. The royal patent also talks about who this belongs to. So when here it says, and all royal patents, all royal patents, whoa, going ahead of myself, sorry, all royal patents so issued shall inure to the benefit of the heirs and assigns of the holder of the original award. And above that, it talks about that even if the person be deceased or the title to the real estate thereby granted have been alienated. I do my first presentation about what's in a word. When I do my research, I literally will look at word for word what the meaning of the word is. And at first, when I was looking at the HRS, the words and meanings didn't make sense to me. But I found out later in revelations in my mind you're not looking at 2000, 2012, 2014, 2023. You're looking at 1872. What was the meaning then? Was it the same or did it change? So when I looked up in Beauvoir Dictionary, the word alienated can mean separated from or sold. Okay? So even if the land be alienated, the title remains with the original awardee. Now, what about the word inure? It shall inure to the benefit of the heirs on the side. How can it be for our benefit if it was already sold? So that question, I was like, how is that possible? If it's already away from us, if it got away from us, how does it now become our benefit? Yeah. So when I looked up Inor in Beauvoir, there was a section in there that said Inor is it's likened to a life estate. So that's where when Kanye was saying you may be one of the beneficiaries, but the heirs are going to assign to sell their interest, because who holds the title? The kupuna. We have beneficiary or benefit afforded to us. It doesn't say we get the title. Yeah, we get interest there. And so when we sell our interest. When we die, our interest dies with us, goes back to the kupuna. One of the cases you can look up, it's about Wailuku Sugar versus Lunalilo. And he specifically put in his will that he would give a life estate to his father. And so when Wailuku Sugar went to court after Kanaina died, because he sold it to Wailuku Sugar, they said, no, we bought it. And the court said, oh yeah, what you bought was his life estate. So he let you use the land, you bought it from him, you guys had free will on that land as long as he was alive, because he sold his interest. But once he dies, it goes right back. So that's how I learned how interests work and how life interests work. Okay, so it's always good not to just take it for face value, but with our kanawai, there comes definition sometimes that may differ a bit or may have a different intent of view than what we literally think it means today. So that's, and I want to just say, these are my understanding. There might be challenges out there, that's fine. But I'm going to show you with my understanding and how I move with this that what happened. So this is the aina of our kupuna. This is Hui land. There are 13 families with 56 acres undivided interest. And the actual boundary line starts up here. This line that's drawn here from the DLNR saying this is all conservation area. You cannot do any kind of stuff down here. But up here is where our boundary starts, all the way up to here, come down, and then goes all the way across here and up. Okay? So with my understanding of the law, what Johanna was talking about, we went to court. We went and go kokua the Kulianas up there. And they arrested us. And I showed that in my last presentation. So in the court papers, the prosecuting attorney, if you read down here, she pretty much tells the court, you don't want that kind of determination to say whether they're like sovereign or that they get jurisdiction over us. In fact, in the paperwork, she says, if the court was to recognize what I'm claiming, then I could operate a vehicle, maybe crash into somebody and they die, and the state couldn't do anything to me. Not that I would, that would be ridiculous, but that's as far, she went far, to stop the court from considering what I'm saying. And she asked, however, only if the state of Hawaii and the United States recognize the separation of jurisdiction and powers, would the court have authority to acknowledge defendant's claim. Okay? Now I'm gonna give you guys a shocking news flash. The jurisdiction of the courts in the state of Hawaii, as well as its enforcement and its attorneys, have jurisdiction. What? They do. They have their laws, they have their procedures and policies, they do. The question I want to ask is, what does it have to do with me? Because remember, we don't fall under that, right? And so when I read a document, and I don't know if La'akea was able to make some copies and pass it out. I wanted you folks to actually tangibly hold it and maybe read it along with me. But that's where I'm going to focus my entire presentation on. So the Illinois, who I was in communication with, because they wanted somebody from the United States. I wrote to him, and he said, out of differences to the constitutionally mandated separation of powers, what you wanted, separation of jurisdiction and powers, I must regretfully decline your invitation. So I handed this to the judge, and I said, look, this is a United States senator for the state of Hawaii. So she asked for somebody from the state of Hawaii and the United States, and I delivered it to him. And so guess what happened to the case? This is myself and my father. Dismissed with prejudice. Okay? Dismissed with, well, how did you do that? Well, I can tell you how I felt I did it. And this is the part that I'm going to teach you guys or show you guys. And you guys can take it, leave it, use it. But before you use it, I'd like you folks to at least do your own due diligence and homework and read on it. And Connie is the one that told me, you gotta talk about this. So it was a doctrine. When I went and I looked up the separation of powers, there's many, many, many things within that whole reading. The kupuna, like this guy, I think her name last name was Ota. I moved with the spirit too. So I went to the Kahului Library and I would take my Bible and I pull it under the tree and I said, I need to find out more about this, what you're talking about. Please help me. And I would ask the librarian, I need to find this book. He had put to the shelf. I went directly to the index and I found separation of powers and it had like tons and tons of reading. So I would pull it again and like how you would pull out your scripture, I just would close my eyes and put my finger on the page, on the book. And it told me to go to page 570. And this is what I found. The doctrine of political questions. So I'm going to read this to you folks. It is not within the province of the courts to inquire into the policy underlining action taken by the political department, Congress and President, in the exercise of their conceded powers. This commonplace maxim is, however, sometimes given an enlarged application so as to embrace questions as to the existence of facts and even questions of law, which the court would normally regard as falling within its jurisdiction. Such questions are termed political questions and are especially common in the field of foreign relations. I find myself to be of foreign relations to the state of Hawaii because we are from the Hawaiian Kingdom. We're not from the state of Hawaii. The leading case is Foster versus Nielsen, where the matter in dispute was the validity of a grant made by the Spanish government in 1804 of land lying up to the east of the Mississippi River, and in which there was also raised the question whether the region between the Perdido and Mississippi River belonged in 1804 to Spain or the United States. You see, Spain had created one grant. Some of us get land grants, some of us get rural taxes, some of us get only the land commission awards. But it was awarded through that country, not from America. Chief Justice Marshall's opinion of the court held that the court was bound by the actions of the political department, the president and Congress, in claiming the lands for the United States. He said, if those departments which are entrusted with the foreign intercourse of the nation, which asserts and maintains its interest against foreign powers, have unequivocally asserted its right of dominion over a country of which it is in possession and which it claims under a treaty, if the legislature has acted on the construction thus asserted, it is not in its own court that this construction is to be denied. Okay, let it kind of sink in, yeah. Because we get quiet titles happening all over the place. But does it belong in the court if it came from another country? That's how I interpret it. Okay? A question like this, respecting the boundaries of nations, is, as has been truly said, more a political than a legal question. And in its discussion, the courts of every country must respect the pronounced will of the legislature. Every country, yeah, such as Hui Pono Ike. The doctrine thus clearly stated is further exemplified with particular reference to the presidential action by Williams versus Suffolk. In this case, the underwriter of a vessel which had been confiscated by the Argentinian government for catching seals off the Falkland Islands, contrary to that government's order, sought to escape liability by showing that the Argentinian government was the sovereign over these islands, and that accordingly the vessel had been condemned for willful discard of legitimate authority. The courts decided against the company on the grounds that the president had taken the position that the Falkland Islands were not a part of Argentina. Can there be any doubt that when the executive branch of the government, which is charged with our foreign relations, shall in its correspondence with a foreign nation assume a fact in regard to the sovereignty of any island or country, it is conclusive on the that it is conclusive on the judicial department? That's a question, yeah? And in this view, it is not material to inquire, nor is it the province of the court to determine whether the executive could be right or wrong. So with that reading, it opened up my eyes, because I'm looking at this going like, okay, so they understand that there could be lands that is not theirs. There also could be treaties that will determine that. They also recognize other legislative branches within countries. And in fact, you know, they're still using our laws. So this, to me, this was pivotal in my actions, in my comings, and my goings. You guys following so far?
Yes.
Yeah? Too confusing?
No.
Kind of matter of fact? Okay. And that's how I was. I was like, oh wow, okay, so I don't need to be angry anymore because they know. And I understood that just as we as Puawai Pai'aina have our own limitations, so do they. Yeah? So it's not a matter of wanting to make a statement, it's asking the question. Did you create my Rural Path and Land Commission Award? Connie asks the question all the time, are you trying to extinguish my rights, extinguish my Land Commission Award or Rural Pathing? And the judges usually kind of back up, oh, no, that's what we're doing here. We're not addressing the title. You know, they questioning them is a good way to be able to get your answers. So having done this under the responsibility which belongs to him, it is obligatory on the people and government of the union. So Kari also said, who is the only body standing right now for our kingdom, Kuawai Pai'aina? It's us, the people. We are that body. We are that that type of governance per se. We are our own answer. And once we can be comfortable with that and not apologetic or that we have to explain ourselves and we just be ourselves, it'll become more calming. It'll become more matter of fact. And we're in any fight, it's okay. You know, I had a run-in right on that property, and I'll tell you the story as soon as I get to that picture. Not the just a picture of the island. So what did I do with this information? I went to people like the Department of Land and Natural Resources, and I let them know I'm going home because now I know. So you, the state, um, if the police officers come, if the private owner them, whatever that think you bought come, I'm giving you notice so that they can come talk to you. And we're going over there, and we're going to go to our Kuleana. We're going to go visit the Kupuna area. We're going to go visit the Heiau. We're going to go clean, and we're going to go fish. We're going to do what we need to do on the Kuleana. And I just gave them notice. I never asked permission. I made them stamp receipt, stamp receipt. Yeah? As you can see, that was in 2009. So what we did, this is the area that, again, I was talking about. So you see my cursor. There's a road here. Where is it? There's a road around here. And so we entered into the property just about, where my cursor keeps disappearing. Around here. Around here. And there's a gate that keeps us from entering. So if you notice on, oh, wait. If you notice on this document here, on the right-hand side, I let them know that we were going to go in. Oh no, I'm sorry. I think it's on the left-hand, yeah, left-hand side. That we were going to go in. That the gate was there. So what we did was we took off one link from the chain and replaced it with our own lock to create our own access. Because it's actually all open land, if you see. There's maybe one or two houses within that whole 56 acres. And so, you know, and we're doing this because we have the right to access and we're going to do our kuleana. Okay? So, and then down below here by the ocean is where the Heiau is. So we establishing ourselves access and maybe where we're gonna clean. And then down here, we come down to do kuleana. Good fishing area, by the way. So what we did, I called my daughter, I called my grandkids, and I tell them, I started doing paperwork. So what you see here is years of me first making pa'a, that we're gonna walk on here and we're not gonna be scared. My children are not political. They're not, they are cultural because they love being Hawaiian, but their religion preference is Jehovah's Witness. So they're very passive. They don't want to have to fight. So I said, okay, Mama's gonna fight. Mama's gonna make the paperwork. As long as you guys good with it, you go follow Mama. They said yes. So I went and I filed it in the Bureau of Conveyance. I stood in front of the burial council. They recognized that we have kuleana there, that we are lineal to that area. I've notified the LNR. So they no issues. They never say, oh, you guys cannot. There was a landowner that had purchased in there and he didn't like my father. And so he called the popos on us. And this is where the story goes. The popos came and they said, oh, we're here to look for trespassers. I said, well, I don't even give you my name because we're not trespassing. And they're like, oh, why you being like that? I said, let me tell you this story. And some of the police officers knew me already because of the previous case that I won. And I said, what if I believe this was the state of Hawaii? Okay, because they're thinking it is. I said, I'm going to give you a scenario. You as police officers, you have an area that you patrol, you have your jurisdictional lines, right? Yes. So say we're on the continent of the United States and you see somebody hit and run and the person in that other car dies, you chase them and you cross state line, and you apprehend him, you grab him. Can you make that arrest? They said, well, we would call the proper. I said, no, 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 just yes or no. Can you make the arrest? And they said, no. I said, why? They said, because we're not in our jurisdiction. I said, okay, good. Now let's come back to here. We're in Nahiku. How many acres does the state of Hawaii, because remember, I believe state of Hawaii. How many acres does the state of Hawaii supposedly have jurisdiction over? And they were perplexed because to them, the state of Hawaii is the state of Hawaii. And I said, okay, you guys are enforcers. You guys need to know this. I will help you. It's 1,800 acres, which 600,000, I'm sorry, 1,800,000 acres. And out of the 1,800,000, 600,000 is set aside for Hawaiian homes and military. So you actually have jurisdiction over 1.2 million acres. And they're like, okay, so I said, well, how many acres get into Hawaii Pai'aina? And I go, come on, you guys gotta know this because you sit over here with the gun. And I said, I'm gonna help you again. There's 4 million acres. And I know where my jurisdictional line is. I'm standing on my kuleana. I want to make sure I protect you from jurisdictional trespass. Do you know where you are? And they left. They left. So my father gets a summons to court. Anyway, they pursue it because he identified himself. Because my dad is one, he likes to fight and go court. But he identified himself. And he was called to court that he was trespassing on this property that was fenced in, gated up. And the end of the scenario was he won the case. Because the people in Hana, the enforcers in Hana knew from a long time ago that we had Kuleana in there and they wasn't gonna process him. They never. So the attorney for the state that brought him to court really never had anything in their back pocket except intimidation. We were just lucky that an attorney that helped Kemoku until he passed also loved my father and said, look, James, I want to help you. And he knew how to navigate the court system. And he saw that they didn't have anything on my father. And so my father won. So our family, more confident now. We go on the land because we filed it in the bureau. We stand in front of the state, the county officer, and in the courts. Yeah. So this is the kind of stuff we do now. Start cleaning up. My kids love the forest and getting in the bushes. So the more family you get involved, the better. But again, this has to do with that doctrine of political question. Yeah. And so the land kind of looks like this now with that big open space. We're going to put one house up for my daughter. Permit? No, I don't think so. We're going to do them on our own. Did anybody give us permission to go over there? Yeah, my pupuna. Nobody else. My granddaughter is standing by a wall that we found that was part of the original holly. And they feel good. They feel safe. They don't feel intimidated. You know, at first they was like, Mom, what if they come and they're like question after, say, here's all the paperwork. That will protect you. But if you don't feel good, I will come in and I will talk to them. And not sassy, not angry, not even confused. It's a matter of fact. And it's a matter of law. LAW. Land, air, and water. Because we come from this Aina, that is what guides us. That is the law that we follow, common law. Yeah, but what I had learned in my journey was that although they say we limited to certain things, I looked at it in the opposite direction, that they are also limited. They cannot go China and claim China. They cannot claim the Chinese people. They would have to deport them. They cannot claim us either, or our kuleana. And so my kid did also go to the Aina to go and clean the heiau that overlooks the ocean. that we have kuleana too. So I hope this will bring you folks closer to your resolve to know that what Hui Pono brings is tools that can help you. But you all gonna have to come to that peace and identity and find a unity. I'm just blessed because from my father to my brother and my sister to my children and my nieces and nephews, they're all on board with this. Some families, they get a little bit hooky hooky. I understand that. So I truly am blessed that I can do this with my ohana. And, they're like, when we can go, I see you guys can go anytime you like. Anytime you like. Just bring yourself to that understanding. I'm making this look really good and easy. It's not easy, but it's something doable for sure. Very doable. I get from my oldest daughter to my youngest Mo'opuna in this picture. And my father is 87, and all he wants to do is go home, and that's the reality that we can bring to him. So that's my short presentation, and I hope you read and read and read over and over again that Doctrine of Political Question. And the key word for me is question. Question everything. Question the authority, question the jurisdiction, question your family. How come you don't know? How come we never know? Tutu, what do you know that we need for know? I went to Baldwin High School to go present the petition, and I asked the kids, okay, everybody know their parents, of course, yeah, they raise their hands. Might have one kid in there that the father left or the mother left and they never knew the parents, so I had to start from the parents. And what about your tutu? Oh yeah, they know their tutu. What about your great grandfather and grandmother? Only one kid in the whole class raised his hand. We should be knowing all of them. And the Kuya petition is not that far away, like I showed you. That's my dad's grandpa on there. And my dad is still alive. So if we all have grandpas and grandmas, it's not far. They only make it seem that way, impossible. But this is the possibility for everybody. So mahalo for you guys' time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I wish you were here. We not to say without you, but your message is always. Here she is. Hey. Your message is always good for us. So I'm glad at least you were with us this week. Does anyone have questions for Jocelyn?
I have
I have a question. How come she used the Bouvier dictionary?
Did you hear, Jocelyn?
Yep. It was the oldest dictionary because when I was looking at the law, it was of 1872. So I wanted to find a dictionary that was at that current time. And that's the one I used.
Can I add something to that? So in the beginning of the Mahali book, when the king lays out everything, he says that any language within the Mahali book is defined, any word that's used, that he used, is defined by the Bouvier dictionary. So he states that right in the beginning of the Mahali, just for information for everybody.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome to see you.
When are you coming back?
Yeah.
I'm here in spirit. And somebody bring home my lychee from Coffee Run.
Yeah.
I guess I like ask you guys, how do you feel? You see it in a talk story about law, but when you see it in action, because I fashioned this presentation because I asked La'ake, I said, what is the expectation? What are they looking for? And he said, they're looking for action. So we can give you all the laws, but if you don't see that it actually can work, or you don't see the possibilities, then it's just paper and words, yeah. So that's why I wanted to give you guys more of the pictures, and I wish Connie would share the pictures of their house and how you just from their front porch, you looking at running water, you looking at lois, you looking. I mean, it go to the backyard, you get a waterfall, you know, and that's living, yeah. Everything else can be like kind of insanity because we get up, we go work, we come home, we're too tired, still gotta go clean out, clean house, do laundry, with the kids, homework, sleep, wake up, you know, it becomes, it's a way of life, but, and I'm not saying you guys cannot go do that, because, in my journey, um, I went to work, I raised my kids, but at one point when I started learning that there's something not quite right, there is something amiss, I just cold turkey quit my job. And I was a manager. I was like, you know, they said, no, like you're the most successful place we got right now in our whole chain. I go, no, I have something even greater that I gotta do. And I just was thankful that I had family that was gonna help support me. Um, and I had a friend that owned a little store that would allow me to go there and do some cleanup and um, preparation work for the store, and then just pay me cash so I could subsidize. So like I said, it's not easy, but I could spend most of my day doing what I needed to get to this point. And so it was from 2005 until now that now I can be as comfortable and all I wanted to do is lend you that inspiration and possibility and hopefully help you to fast forward the process. Because it's going to be almost 20 years that I stayed this process, yeah? And we don't have to, as long as we can grasp our identity, know the common thread that binds us, which is our kukuna. We don't have to go all the way back all the way back to 1839, the 1842, 1864, 1887, all of these laws is for us. How do I identify to that? To me, my answer is the queer petition. That's where we was left off. Because that's where we prove we're not annexed. And if we can all just come to that one unification, we can then take our place, whether it be in the legislature, in even business, because this place can have to be taken care of. Yeah, whether it be a water department or a DLNR. DLNR was the interior of somebody help me. The DLNR. I'm sorry. The Department of Interior. The DLNR, if you look at the Organic Act, they switched it from the Department of Interior to the Department of Land and Natural Resources. So who like work at Department of Land and Natural Resources? Because you guys are gonna end up switching out to be the Department of Interior. Who knows? It's gonna be our call because this is our country. So this is how I did what I did. Will it work for you? I cannot answer that. I always tell my dad this. This is what I tell him. I cannot control what others do. I can only control what I do. And as long as you stay in that lane of Pono, sky's the limit, guys. Really is. Don't let people and they'll get frustrated if they don't listen to you or they don't do that or they arrest you. I'm not saying we'll get arrested, but I never stop and go, oh my God, this is it. I don't want to do this anymore. I got arrested in shame or I don't know what I'm doing. I just kept going. And I found the solution. I see Ricky in the back there holding up his, yeah. But yeah, that's just me. And I can share with you guys all my process, whoever wants to know.
swing by. As always, it's just so much information and so much emotion when we get together like this. But it all comes back to the same thing. What are we going to do? Are we going to just keep having normal sessions? Or are we actually going to work towards something? Like the information we got today helps us see, and maybe it hasn't all come clear today, but I promise you, when you go home and you sit and you think and you talk with your kupuna, and I mean the kupuna on the other side, it will become clearer to you where we're going, who we are, what we can and cannot do. And then we need to work towards that. And we need to work towards it in unity with respect for each other and our difference of opinions, our different ideas. The common thread is that we all want the same thing. And that same thing is what the Kibula in the Kuwait petition did. We want our country. So I challenge you to get yourselves ready and get your families ready, because the day when you are going to be able to exercise your voice to make that happen is very close. It is closer than any of us realize. We can feel it. We all feel it. And what we're doing now is working our way towards that and trying to blend it all together so we can just make that move. So when you hear that, oh, we're doing this on this day, you should be ready to show up with your pen to make your mark on what you want. Not what anybody else wants, not what any of us say, but what you want. So that we can have a start.
So are you referring to a new Kuwait petition?
It would probably be.
No.
It
No.
would probably be the process of putting in place a constitution, putting the government back together. Yeah. Your mark on that vote is very much the same as your signature on a petition. It's the same, you know. So.
Wasn't her example a continuation of the old ones?
So the people will decide, yeah? The people have to decide. Do we need a new constitution? Me personally, I don't think so. Our constitution was beautiful. It was perfect. We don't need to change anything. But that's my opinion. That's just me. You might think something else. You might think we need to do this, but that's what we have to do as together as a yeah. So we're trying to, and I think Jocelyn and Johanna and Camilo lay a very good foundation for us to understand who we are and why we can. Yeah. So just keep learning, keep educating your families. We have to bring our families together. Yeah. Sometimes that's hard. In my family, it's harder. You know. But I want to just kind of open us up for a little bit of discussion. I know we've been here a long time, but just hear what people have to say, what you think, what you feel.
Just ready to move forward.
Huh?
I'm ready to move forward. I want everybody to jump on board and understand that there's no future in America, folks. Our future that lays right here in Hawaii. But we gotta make that move, right? But we gotta move forward together. You know, we cannot be crap, pulling back down in the bucket. There's not gonna be anytime soon talking about any kings or queens. It's about focusing on that one area of self-governance along with community sustainability.
I think Jocelyn said something very important. We are the local. We just need to get ourselves formally organized and functioning. That's all. Because we are already it. And we can run around and we can put up little fights here and little fights there. Do we want to keep doing that? Do we want to keep putting things out over here and over there. No, we want to make it secure for our kids and their kids. I want to know that my grandchildren are going to have places to sleep safely. They're going to eat. Because we're not going to be here to fight for them every time. It has to stop at some point. So I think we're the ones to start that. Make it stop. When I listen to people talk about Vietnam, I learned something last year about Vietnam. The people, if you know how that war was, it was probably one of the, no war is good, but that war was probably one of the most horrific, stupidest, damaging wars ever. But the Vietnamese people that were attacked in that war, lost everything. They have actually created a program where our people can go there to heal. And guess what it's based on? Forgiveness. Forgiveness and love. And I've talked to vets who have gone there and have come back and totally has changed their life because they were able to find a way to not just forgive themselves for what they had to do there, but a much bigger picture. And it's very empowering when you think about these people in this country that were being attacked and bombed and everything else, that they are the ones who created this. And we as a people have the systems and the hearts and the methods to do that. And we need to work with ourselves and with each other, and then we can move forward. Yeah. But again, thank you for coming today and listening to us and sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I get lots of action steps, tell people to do, and they say, what can I do? Use your list.
I started teaching my grandchildren this song. You see Kanawai, you see my Hui Pono Ike. Really, this is what we should be teaching our kids. This is the last words of for me, last words of the how they felt at that time, and how we still feel. This is known as a rock lead song. They rather speak with the rocks. They become, this is their words. This is the words. And we should be teaching our kids this. Because it is one and only protest song. And they created a quick petition. So, years of people. And we should use this. We should use it because it's still the same. We're still in this heaven. The heaven never go away. The heaven is still here. And it's still continuing. How do we make it one? Make it one by being united. How do we reunite with the past? Use your past. Use your past. And so we need to connect to the past. And we sing all these other songs, but these are the words of the book. And talking about the petition. We gotta make these. We gotta make these guys remember. They created all this stuff. They created where we stay today. They took our stuff, they took our identity, and they made it money. This is what our people was fighting for. They knew these things were coming. And that's why they knew they didn't want to become part of the states. Because it wasn't going to be. So, when I'm playing the quick petition, right? Look at all this stuff. The stuff is great. It gave us so much tools. It gave us so much avenues. It gave us so many answers. We was doing a podcast with Jared last night. And we talked about, what do we want to see? And so, what do we see for the future? So I mentioned in the conversation, I mentioned, you guys know Israel's portrait on the Facing the Future.
The one with the Bahu drum in his back.
Yeah, and he's back. Anybody know why he faces back to the camera?
You're looking to the past.
Yeah. He said that you have to look to the past. Because right now, we in the future of America. We in their system. And what he realized, what our put, there was no future. Because they have no culture.
Yes.
They have no culture. They should have everybody else's culture. So I call it Hui Ponos. They Hui Ponos. They don't know where they stand. We get one pass. We get one pass. We get one culture.
So we do the past to see the future.
That is the future. All the stuff we sharing today, compiler's preference from the past. What does it say? You must understand the old laws to understand what the mischief is and to find the remedy. Because the future is a blank page. How are you going to find the answers? The answers come with experience, come with tragedies, come with all these things. And if we throw that away, what do we have? We have nothing. Everything is in the past. Right? Aloha from the past. Right? Human communities, all in the past. Kapupunas call us Kapubi. So it's the past that is our future. And we need to cling on to the past and bring them forward. We need to teach our kids. Nothing against hip hop, nothing against all what we're learning. But if we're looking to save who we are, you gotta teach our kids the past. My grandkids only teach them Hawaiian. I say all of that stuff you can learn on your own. But this is your culture. The songs, the modelos, all teach us about our people. So this song should be the anthem. Because when we rise above, we're going back to the past. Going back to our Puna. Yes, we stand. We stand with you, it is correct, and we will follow you. You cannot come out of there. This belongs to you. And you should learn this song. You sing this song, we gather, have we seen it already? We should sing this song.
Sing the song now.
Yes, sir. You're eating.
I like each other.
I have one thing I wanted to say.
Yep.
So, maybe in line with what you're saying, I'm looking at the 1859 Civil Code, and I want to make our court from that Civil Code come alive. Anybody who wants to try to do that is welcome to come help me at 157 Palm Street, Tuesdays and Fridays, 10 to 2. I'm not trained in anything legal. Besides that book I'm reading, 1859 Civil Code. But I know that is where it has to start.
I like helping you guys with something. I really like helping you guys.
It has to
Anything over there. I like help. First, I think I like help you guys to have all what you guys are doing there recognized. So I want to do my part of taking that route so that the IDs are recognized, so that the passports are recognized. I want to donate my time to help you guys get that to happen. You know, like, it's so important what you guys are doing. It's put on there, it's super important. But at the same time, we need to be recognized by the state of Hawaii.
We have to do that.
No, no,
If
it's
they
not
do
no,
that, they
I
would,
just,
if they do that, they would have to just, they, yeah, they,
well, because what it comes down to right now is, our people cannot even leave our